Starting. Hello there.
G'day Richard and g'day crypto goers. I'm Adam Stokes. Very special episode tonight. He retired in 2003 after an immensely diverse entrepreneurial career, starting with car stereo installations and sales from his front yard at 18, also known as audio ecstasy, before moving on to other adventures including internet marketing masters, Triple X Toy Joy, which sounds like fun, lead feeds, Wibout, and more. He started GPU mining Bitcoin in early 2011, back when the block rewards were 50 coins per block and achievable without being part of a pool. That would have been nice. He's lived all over the world, has more than 40,000 subs on YouTube, 52,000 followers on Twitter, and is the author of 2 books, including sciVive, of which we're talking about more tonight. He says he's retired, but like a true entrepreneur, he'll never really retire as he continues to give through education, conversation, and creation. His latest project is the creation of a crypto like no other called HEX, of which I personally spent weeks researching to create an in-depth review on my own channel. See the link below. He's so diverse in his knowledge across so many fields, it's no wonder so many people want to learn from him. Richard, I've been looking forward to this for 2 years. I'm humbled and honored to speak with you. Welcome to the channel.
Hey, it's the best intro I've ever heard. You packed in, real facts, things that people could Google. I like that.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been listening to your stuff for years, and I kind of hate it when they start and say, can you introduce yourself? I think that's a bit weird. I think if you're giving up your time, they could have at least give it a little intro. But
Agree with
that
you.
aside, yeah, good on you. I hope to, as I mentioned in our conversations before, I hope to do this very different to the other in-depth conversations you've done on your channel and other channels. So let's get into 20 quick questions before we deep dive into other stuff. You cool with this?
Sounds good.
All right. The challenge for you is to try and keep it as short as possible. And then we're going to go way down the rabbit hole of everything that is Richard Hart. All right. Number 1, are you Satoshi?
No.
2, excluding Bitcoin and HEX, what's your favorite crypto?
Ethereum or Monero.
Wow. 3, who is your mentor?
Don't have one. Everyone.
Wow.
Everyone that's got something that I can learn from. You can learn from stupid people. I mean, if you're not an example, you're at least a warning.
Cool. 4, beyond your YouTube subscribers and employees, who is your mentee?
I've had quite a few that were able to read the sciVive book or hear some of the things I've said and do them. A lot of people listen and then they don't do the thing, and then they don't fall in love with the stuff because they don't know how good it is because they're not doing it. There's maybe 5 or 6 guys that really have done what's in the book and have taken my advice and have changed their lives for the better. And they're, true diehard fans because I changed their life because they were willing to take advice. They take my advice better than I do. If I took my own advice, I'd have a 6-pack, right? So it's, it's mostly they're mostly the reason that they're the best mentees because they have the best drive to do things.
Yeah, I found that when you're I've been very lucky in the crypto space. I've had a few people mentor me, one in particular, and as a result, whenever he gives me any homework, so to speak, I strictly make myself do it because he's giving so much of his time to me. It's in both our best interest to make sure that I actually do what he's given to me. Otherwise, he's just wasting time.
Right.
But we move on. Number 5, what's your daily driver? Uber?
Lately it's just greed and stress. So, I mean, I wanted to launch HEX at the bottom of the bear market. I figured the bear market would be similar to other bear markets and last about 2 years, and we would spend some time at the bottom consolidating. Instead, we didn't. We just went down and went right back up, and it was ignored all resistances on the way back up. So the horizontal support turned resistance at 6K. It didn't resist, and it went right through. And it did that at every point along the way. Bitcoin's never done that before, and that was with no Google searches, no premiums on futures, no premiums on anything for the majority of that run. It was weird. So, you know, it looks like I didn't get to launch at the bottom. Now, the good news is a lot of people bought the bottom because they thought we were closer to launch than we ended up being. So awesome for those people, you know. Last time I tweeted out, hey, who's happy that they, you know, bought Bitcoin in the 3,000s because they were waiting for HEX to come out. Got something like 90 or 100 likes. So at least I assume 90 or 100 people did pretty well. Yeah, I don't remember the question. What was the question?
We've gone right down the wrong path. Maybe it's my accent. I said, "What's your daily driver?" As in, what's your
Oh yeah,
car that you drive every
I'm
day?
like stressed for time because I'm pissed that we didn't launch earlier. And
No, no.
there's
What are you driving? Like, what's your car? Like, you're rich, so
oh,
what do you
I don't
drive
drive. I don't fuck with it.
at all?
No, I
All
don't
right.
bother with it. I used to drive a lot. I used to have a twin turbo Lexus and you know, a lot of other toys, BMW M3 convertible, you know, stuff like that. But I tend to push things to the edge at which they can be pushed. So if I get a car, you know, when I park, the brakes will glow red. So like the brakes on my M3 and my Lexus, when you park, you could literally take a photo of the brakes glowing red, just something you usually only see on an F1 car. And I'm just doing that driving around the city. That's not healthy for the city or me or my driver's license. So as I've gotten older, I figured it's wiser for me to not have cars that I want to dip in to see how far they can go. And you're going to live longer if you're not driving around.
You
So,
actually a bit of a digression there for me as well. I remember when I lived in Korea, there was a guy who drove every day, and we went to go out clubbing, and he had no car. And we went in a taxi. I said, "Where's your car?" And he said, "No, I had to get rid of it. If I didn't get rid of it, I'd end up killing someone." And that's because his American style of driving was somewhat different to the good South Korean style of driving, and he was experiencing too much road rage. And he's like, "You know what? I'm going to end up in jail."
right. Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot, I've been into a bunch of accidents. Um, Maybe one of them my fault. Uh, Maybe. And like, you just get injured and then you have like neck pain and, you know, it's, if you, the stuff that is good about life for the most part is at the end of journeys. The food you want to eat is not in the car. The movie you want to see is not in the car. You know, if you want to make love, car's not the best spot. And it's just like, if you can spend less time in transition and just live closer to the things that you like or bring things to you, then you don't have to pollute the environment, risk killing people, risk killing yourself. The more time you spend on the road, the more likely you are to be maimed, crippled, and injured. There's really not a lot of upside to it. It sounds fun, feels fun. You know, roller coasters are fun too, and you're less likely to die on them. So maybe go to the theme park.
You know what? As I get older, being Australian, it's a pretty big country. It takes a while to drive across the country, and I used to drive heaps, especially at night. I didn't care, but after hitting three kangaroos in a very short period of time, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if it's just getting older, but I don't like driving at night anymore.
So no holding
Even
SS Commodore for you then?
No,
Maybe a
no,
Ford.
I've never been into that.
All right.
Clearly, you've been to Australia. I'm I'm a Beamer man through and through, and
Oh,
part of the
nice.
reason why I buy drive Beamers is well, German cars that is. I'm just really big on the safety. Yes, they're nice. Yes, they're
Yeah.
pretty, but
Yeah.
um, you know, I like being surrounded by 10 airbags and all the technology and
Agree.
comparative to a Commodore. No thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next one. iPhone or Android?
Well, I kind of got into Android because you used to not be able to have a Bitcoin wallet on iPhone. So I'm still kind of an Android guy. I do recognize that iPhone has better security. So if you want the encrypted security module in an iPhone is the best. It's better than the Android stuff. So,
And that's the same with PCs.
well, no,
Macs versus
PC, you have to be a Windows guy if you do most things like live stream or, you know, any type of gaming whatsoever. There's just so many apps that only run on Windows, and then Linux is a nightmare. I use it because I have to develop code, but if I didn't have to compile binaries and other crap, I would never ever use Linux ever because nothing works on it. And the things that do work on Linux barely work. If you ever install something, you have to read 5 guides and fix 5 dependency issues before it works. It's a nightmare. And I've never used an Apple computer. Like, I used one in elementary school 20 years ago. Longer, maybe? So, yeah, I don't give a shit about the like non-upgradable hardware, more expensive, slower computing experience. I'm not interested in it.
Yeah, I know people get very passionate about it, but when I was at uni years ago, we used to have both PC and Mac labs, and I used to purposely make myself go into the Mac labs just to keep up the Mac skills. But in the end,
I mean, you can leave them run longer. You don't have to reboot them as often. That's nice. They don't come with as much scummy advertising wear. That's nice. I mean, they've got upsides. They've got the best battery life. There is upside to it. Good hardware.
Quiet and cool.
Well, yeah. If you have less power, things are cooler and quieter.
Are you left or right-handed?
Right.
I actually pictured you being ambidextrous.
My father is, but I'm not for some reason.
Right,
if I broke my right hand, I might be, but I never broke my right hand. Well, I actually did break my right hand. Yeah, never mind. I'm just not.
I did it as a kid, running across desks, fell off, and I was so scared of the teacher, I didn't tell her. So I stayed at school with a broken right wrist until I got home. Most pain of my life.
That happens every time I break something. People don't believe it's broken because I'm not crying like a bitch. I'm like, no, it hurts a lot. It really does. And then you go and get your x-ray and you're like, yeah, that shit's broken. Did that with my leg and my arm.
All right, we're nearly halfway before we go deep diving. Here we go, some political stuff. I think I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it. Are you more left, right, or centered on the political side?
Made a video of this called Treat Your Politics Like Your Sandwich, and why elect the crappier of two evils. Basically, when you order a sandwich, you're going to have like 8 variables on there. And if you can remember those 8 variables, then you can remember the only 8 variables people care about when you tell them your politics. So I'm against, invading people for no good reason. I think it's a huge net cost. I'm against fake security theater where you do lots of surveillance and little investigation and little enforcement. I think weed should be legal. I'm so basically socially liberal, fiscally conservative. And then I just, if you go through that video, it'll tell you every single one of my positions, because everybody's wrong on something, right? So like the conservatives who aren't conservative at all, they spend like crazy. They created a new branch of government called the TSA that does security theater, and Homeland Security, which does security theater. And all the people that they're stopping at the walls just fly over on visas and stay on airplanes. Like everyone gets something wrong and everyone gets something right. Every single political branch, pretty much. So if you chose one or the other, you chose wrong, because it means you're wrong in half the shit, pretty much.
Okay, that one I actually haven't seen. I have to check it out. But as we go down these 20,
I wrote a book on it too. So if you go to the sciVive book, there's a second book called Fix the World. So sciVive focuses on stuff you can change. Fix the World focuses on stuff you can't change, but it's important, systematic stuff.
Just to digress on that, I really big into audiobooks. You're going to release these on audio, like on the sciVive. Certainly, you can press the icon that reads it, but it's so clunky.
Yeah, one day, HEX first, and then sciVive.
Roger. Okay. What makes you laugh?
A lot of stuff.
The Simpsons guy?
Simpsons is all right. I haven't watched in a while. I mean, I just watched this movie called, this Seth Rogen movie called, it's like Knocked Up. That was hilarious. I thought Knocked Up was funny as hell.
Check it out.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, I laugh pretty easily when I'm not like under the watchful eye, like having to present myself well or whatever. I take crypto seriously, and so I get more serious when I talk about this stuff. But I'm not talking about this stuff. I'm pretty jovial. I'm okay with a good fart joke. It makes me smile.
I've been watching a lot of your stuff, and there was one question that someone asked you. It was a while ago. You had a group chat, and actually a girl jumped in, and she asked you, tell us some of your sex tips. And
Yeah, and I
we got
answered.
we got a smile out of you for that. You went down the blood pressure road. I thought that was hilarious.
It works.
So what makes you mad then?
Oh God, that's an easy
Besides
one too.
Satoshi, what makes you mad?
Well, you know, I'm not partial to people that don't listen. Like if I tell someone to do a thing, they should do the thing. A lot of times you tell someone to do a thing and they have a good story for you and a whole bunch of talking, a whole bunch of bullshit, and you're like, no, just do the thing. I don't care about the story, you know? I don't, people find it very hard to follow instructions for some reason. Pride, lack of good habits, I'm not exactly sure.
Your team with the Hex, just this is a slight digression, but the team with your Hex, are they going all right? So everything I did a review on Hex a while ago.
I think we had people that could do a very good job, but just wouldn't and kept delaying things. And so we just chose new people. So our UI is being done by another guy, and he's had a lot of experience launching other things that have been audited and successful and such. And it's just happening. So every day you look, there's new code and there's new functionality, and the progress is very clear. That's a nice experience to have when you're a project leader. You know, I'm the one that has to make sure that everything meets my vision, and when I can build a new front end on, you know, by following the instructions and see new things that are complete and work, and then hand those out to people to test, that makes me feel very good. So right now we have front end code that performs all the functions except claim, which might be done today because you have to like sanitize the data inputs. Sometimes you pay something that's in all caps, sometimes it's not in all caps, and some signatures come with prefixes and some don't, and there's all these different permutations you have to account for in the claim process, kind of behind the scenes. I'm happy with it. I mean, I can't ask for much more. The contract's like done. We've run out of things to do on the contract. It's basically ready for audit. I'm just kind of playing around modeling users to just make sure the curves look like how I want. And I am worried about going to audit and then having like a surprise. Hey, we have to add an index for this one thing for the front end to make it easier to display this data. And then I don't want that index to like invalidate my audit. It probably wouldn't, but the auditors prefer code that's just locked. So I'm kind of trying to time it. I'm trying to delay the audit by like a few days, maybe a week, so that I can make sure that we don't need to make any changes to support the front end stuff, because we might find some front end thing we wanted to add. But I mean, I don't know, maybe I go to audit this week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see.
Cool. I look forward to speaking more about Hex with you.
I could teach you how to build the contract, host it on your own local blockchain, and make a stake, open a stake, close a stake, claim funds, do all that magic stuff. Like you could do it on your own computer.
So, what do you do when you're to unwind in your? This is number 11, by the way. Before we go down to talk about your book, and also want to talk about dating as a millionaire. But what do you do to unwind when you've got spare time, if you've got any? Not driving.
Watch movies. Watch live streams. There's this dude that's hilarious. I used to play this video game called League of Legends. It's cancer. Don't ever play it. But if you have the misfortune of having played it, then you'll appreciate watching this live stream from a dude named Tyler One. He's goddamn hilarious. He's just insanely funny. He's the funniest live streamer. The funniest live streamer used to be a guy named Doctor Destruction or Doctor something. It's just the Doc. He was hilarious, but then the games he played started to suck too much. So then just watch Tyler every once in a while. It's great because you can just leave it, on the background and wait for something awesome to happen while you work. Because it's the thing. So there's two theories of working, right? One theory is that you can have nothing and just do the work, and that's awesome. Then the other theory is that there's like a part of your brain that if you can just get rid of it and make it stop trying to get you to do other things, then you could do the work. So some people do well idling with something kind of playing while they work. that makes them feel like they're wasting time, but really they're working. And then I guess some people do well with just like only the work in front of them. They both can be effective.
On gaming, I remember you talking to Doug Polk. It's
Mhm.
over a year ago, I think. And there was something in that interview that really stuck in my head. It's quite profound. I was actually even thinking about it in the lead up to this discussion. You spoke about cards like gambling, poker, and computer games being a zero-sum game. And I remember, uh, actually, it was in Korea. I'm pretty good at poker. I'm not great, but I certainly understand the game well. And when I went to Korea and played in this tournament, as a mediocre player, because I went there against very poor players, I was actually very, very good at it. And I remember being in a tournament, and it came down to head, me and this guy. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to go to school the next day. And even though I probably could have won, I said, look, do you just want to split the pot? And this guy, even though I was up, he's like, yeah, let's do it. That's great. And some people are like, you could have won that. And I'm just thinking, no, I'm just wasting my time here. And then
Right.
when I watched your video with Doug Polk, it was years later. It actually reinforced that. And the same sort of goes with computer games. Now, of course, some people play computer games and become rock stars at computer games, and it's a very small percentage. But you used to be a gamer, and you weren't getting much out of that.
Well, it consumes all of your consciousness. It deletes you as a human being, pretty much, depending on the game you're playing. So if you're playing a game that's a narrative story and has a beginning and an end, and you put maybe 8 hours into it, okay, cool. That was 8 awesome hours that was better than a movie. Fabulous. If you play a game that involves grinding, and like Clash of Clans, all those casual games, if you play something on your phone, you're fucked, because they're all designed to suck away your consciousness and make you do repetitive tasks, which, if you think about it, is what you would do to destroy a foreign culture or demoralize a foreign army, is suck all of their ability to be, useful on the battlefield into dicking around with their phone. And then you can go take their girls and their land and whatever else you want to do, because you destroyed them, right? So when you spend all your time consuming someone else's narrative, you are not you. You want to get to a point where you can make your own narrative, and other people can follow your path that you trailblazed, and they can follow behind you. If you spend all your time doing what other people have programmed for you to do, you're kind of like their slave a little bit, right? So It's fun. It's just like salt on food. It tastes great in moderation, right? It's just like showering. It tastes great, or it feels good, but you want to get out of the shower sometimes. You don't want to just live in the water, right? So if you spend your life gaming, like I did, where you'd wake up, start playing, and play until you couldn't keep your eyes open anymore. Well, if I measure what I got achieved in those years, I got some cool icons for my character. Could have done anything else,
Yeah, you see those kids who play to literally they die. The mum goes into the room and finds them dead on their keyboard.
Yeah,
and just
and they've got teams of psychologists that spend all day figuring out how to separate you from your money and your consciousness. And so they just throw people into the meat grinder for profit. That's what casual gaming is. That's what loot boxes are.
Here's a tough one for you. I really enjoy how you talk about, enjoy is probably a bad word when I'm talking about someone dying. So you spoke about Jobs dying with lots of money. And
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, and that money could have been put into researching a cure for his own death, or preventing his own death.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking to this question: how much wealth is enough?
Well, it's the wrong question. So you're presupposing that enough exists, and the easy, witty answer to your question is more. So the way human beings are wired up is that we are meant to achieve a goal, desire another goal, work towards it, achieve it, and keep doing that over and over again. And the only way that works is if you're never actually satisfied with the previous goal. You have to keep increasing what you want, increasing your circle of influence, right? So you learn more, get more, learn more, get more. If you didn't do that, you'd be outcompeted by people that did, right? So we're kind of the result of stuff that works. And what works is this ratcheting effect of a staircase. And no one's happy with pay cuts. Everyone's happy with pay rises. No one's happy with being weaker. Everybody wants to be stronger. Nobody wants to be slower. They want to be faster. And that's how it works for all animals and everything that you see around here. Other systems have been tried where you could like things that suck and you disappear, right? It's just like hoarding stuff. People like to save things and collect things. Why? Well, if there's ever a shortage of things, you got the thing. And maybe you needed that to live, right? Maybe it was food. So you're not supposed to be happy forever. If you do that, you become a hippie and the Chinese come take your land. So the Chinese are taking all of Tibet's land because the Tibetans didn't screw enough and make enough people and be warrior enough to protect themselves. And so their happiness and control over their minds allowed them to be more chill, and now they're getting beat up because they were too chill. If you look at the amount of medical research and technology or weapons research and technology that comes out of Tibetan monks, it's jack shit because they're sitting around feeling good. And sitting around feeling good gets outcompeted by trying hard. And so the tryhards, right, the Mongols and their offspring, have more control over what the world looks like now. And, you wouldn't be surprised if that culture just disappeared at some point due to being outcompeted, right? So it's not free to be a hippie and happy all the time and, smoking weed and just sitting around, right? I mean, there's a cost to it. And, it's somewhere that's nice to visit. It's not somewhere you should live. If you magically find the way to make progress and be effective happily, excellent, good for you. I think the most productive people in the world, for the most part, ain't that happy. They're kind of tortured souls, and they need to produce to try and feel less of that pain, Producing a book is hard as fuck. It's you in the paper, I guess Elon Musk had a good quote from one of his friends that was, having a startup is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. Well, yeah, yeah, kind of. There's some fun parts too, right? But there's a lot of suck as well. I mean, look at HEX, right? It should have been out a while ago. And I have when I give time estimates to people, I'm not actually estimating how long things are going to take. I'm estimating what the likelihood is that I can get a small set of humans to do what they said they would, and that their guesses were accurate, right? So they had to guess how long something was going to take accurately and then actually do the thing, right? And it's hard, like predicting, people have health problems. People have stuff that pops up. And in software, you don't really know what you have to do until you start trying to do it. So you're trying to I'm better at making price predictions than I am at making, is this guy accurately predicted how long something's going to take when it's not even predictable, right?
On those price predictions, in your last video, you mentioned I think it was an $8,500 bottom of the next Bitcoin dip. You still think you've been very good with your
Yeah, I feel good about it. I mean, it's the 50% Fibonacci retracement of the parabolic advance from 3K to 13.9, 3.2 to 13.9. It's the 40% bull market parabola maintenance bottom level that we don't violate in bull markets, or haven't. If you go back and look at the 2017 bull run. What else?
Is McAfee's estimate in the ballpark?
So McAfee bet that he would eat his dick if it didn't go up to $1 million next year or something.
End of next year, yeah. Yeah,
it's an unlikely. When you make these types of predictions, the farther your prediction is from the current price, the harder it is for that to become true. You can see that in options prices. So if you think Bitcoin is going to go over $100,000, I can link you to some place where you can buy an option, a call option, to purchase it at $100,000. Now what that means is, I think the call option costs maybe $2,100 or something. So for $2,100, you have the option to buy Bitcoin for $100,000. So if it went up to $150,000, then you would make $150,000 minus your $2,100 cost minus the $100,000. which would leave you with like 45,000 or something. And then there's a time frame. It has to do it in a certain time frame. So you can use options markets to put a chart and show what people believe the price will be at certain times. And then you end up with like a heat map of here's where the price is, and then here's where people thought it would go. Some people thought it would go up this high by this time. Some people thought it would go this low by this time. And you can chart where, people think things are going to go. You'll find that no one's confident buying $1 million call option, right? So if McAfee was serious about eat his dick for $100K, he would be borrowing money to buy those $2,100, $100,000 call options, and then when his prediction came true, he'd be extremely, extremely wealthy because options give you the highest return on investment. Like you put in the least money and get the most money back using options. It's the most leverage you can get.
He certainly stands by his word. In a recent interview he did, it looked like he was on a boat somewhere. Someone asked him, and he still stood by his prediction. But I now wonder, which goes on to our next question about Libra. One way or another, Richard, do you think this thing will go ahead?
It's about 50-50. If you guys want to look at options, go to richardhart.win, and you can deposit Bitcoin and see what the call options cost and the put options cost. And then you can...
Including for Libra? Well, it's
not for Libra, just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's Ethereum stuff on there too. So for Libra, it's 50-50. It never launches. There's a lot of things that large companies want to do that they end up not doing. And since Libra says repeatedly, there's very few things that you could get them to actually commit to in the public questioning that they had from Congress. One of the things they would stick to is, we're not going to do this unless everyone's happy with it and everyone signs off on it. Well, I don't think they can get that. I don't think you can make a room of people that hate you sign off and like you. I just don't think you can get it. So if they're true in what they're saying, I don't think that they're going to get a letter from the SEC that says cool, and a letter from the CFTC that says cool, and a letter from every committee of Congress that says cool. I don't think they're going to get those letters. So either they're going to have to not do what they said and launch without people being happy, or just not launch. So, and then there's other bullshit going on with that. They let everyone believe that they received money from people to become members of that association, and then we find out no one gave any money. You're like, what the fuck? That's a big deal. That's a big difference, right? Paying $10 million and not paying $10 million is a really big deal. Then you hear other things like, Visa and MasterCard are partners, and then you hear they're not partners, and you're like, well, these are big changes, right? Because that's all they are. It's a white paper, and then the only thing that really matters is that what large entities put in money, and we're willing to play along. But now if that stuff's all backed off and you just got a white paper, there's a lot of white papers, bro. I'm kind of pissed off about the changing landscape of the news around that.
Yeah, you see, I agree that I think it's doubtful that you'd get all the American powerhouses to agree with it in the political space.
When have they ever done that for anything?
But what would stop an organization then just going offshore? Yes, it's registered in the States, but when you've got that much fiscal options and power and reach and global footprint, why not just be a Nike factory and start making, so to speak, or figuratively, shoes in a different country?
Well, they already presented that argument in Congress. They said, look, if you guys don't let us do it, you're going to see it happen from somebody else that doesn't have our same values. And what they're really saying is China. What they were really saying was, if you don't let Facebook do it, then China's going to do it, and Alipay and WeChat are going to do it. So you can either have the American one, and then they alluded to, you can eyeball the American one, and we'll give you whatever data you want. But if you don't let us do it, then China's going to do it, and they're not going to give you crap. That's what they meant. So.
Or I wonder if Facebook would just still do it, but based in another country.
I think they're scumbags. I mean, I think they're scumbags, but they're scumbags concerned with profit, and they're probably not that happy about the multi-billion-dollar fines that they've received. They received a $5 billion fine for their Cambridge Analytica scandal crap. Well, that hurts the bottom line a little bit. $5 billion fine sounds pretty big. Sure, they make more money than that, but Basically, all they care about is not getting fined or not getting antitrusted. That's the only two things they actually care about.
I did an interview with a futurist called Dr. Richard Haynes the other day, and in one of his predictions, he was speaking about eventually Facebook will be Instagram, and then in 10 years, both Facebook and Instagram will be dead. And
Facebook bought Instagram already.
Yeah, and that's what he's saying. It would merge into, and you mentioned it, I think, in one of your talks recently, and you were dead right. I feel is where you said you don't want to be on the same platform that your parents are using, and years ago, I remember I was in some random course, and the instructor said, "Oh, Facebook's dead," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Because my kids told me that Facebook was dead," and that was a while ago, and you can see over time the shift away, and the children sort of, the younger people say, well, they make the decision. They are the future, of course, figuratively and literally. And I think about what that instructor said in that class. I think about what you said in your presentation. I think about what Dr. Richard Haynes said in his prediction. And then I think about what's happening in Congress. And, maybe this is the beginning of the end, but with 2.5 billion people using it monthly, it's a long way to go down.
I don't use that shit, and I'm happy that I never do. It's garbage. And they email me every day. Hey, please click. Please log in. Please, there's something going on. Please click, log in. It's so disgusting. It's like, no, I'm not going to log in.
They've got me with one last thing that I've got to try and get out of. I play baseball, and my whole baseball team, when they communicate on Messenger.
Yeah.
And if I don't use Messenger, which is, an arm of Facebook, I'm kind of left out of this conversation. And
Yep.
And I actually don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to convince an entire, but it's not just the team, it's the entire club. How do I tell them? Yeah, exactly. So that's my last bit of involvement in Facebook. But once I can get out of that, I'll feel free as a bird. The question 15: how many hours a night do you sleep, Richard?
7 to 8, depending on how much I ate the day before. So if I don't eat that much, then I don't need that much sleep. But if I do eat like normal or more, then 8 is good.
Most inspirational leader to you in all time?
I don't really have any. I mean, there's a lot of people that did a good job, but that's kind of what you expect them to do. Yeah, I don't really have any. I mean, there's a lot of good quotes from people, but...
Cool. All right, here we go. This one could be tough. Single greatest life decision you've ever made?
Start my own business. It just cascaded into greatness, So
was that with your car stereo one?
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah. I mean, in theory, I guess I got my friends to go door-to-door selling, like stamps and envelopes and stuff out of something that was in the back of a comic book. There was like some comic book thing in the back. Is that or back of a Boy's Life magazine? But I think it was a comic book. So that was, I guess, my first business.
And on the other end of that spectrum, your single...
Or no, I sold candy in school too. It's like I would sell people candy in school as well. So maybe that was my first business.
Did that make money? So what, you buy like a big bag and sell it individually?
Yep.
Mate, I actually did that with my younger brother. I remember we went to the shops, we bought all these bags of lollies, and then we actually set out, I don't know what we're thinking, like kids obviously, we set out at the very front of the shop, like at the front door of the shop, selling back the shop's merchandise individually as like per in little one from the packet. And the shop owner was actually cool. He let us carry on. But when we went to store up, yeah, it was cool when I look back.
Dude, in the United States, they would choke you out and kill you. That's how Eric Gardner died. Eric Gardner was doing the same thing, big black guy, was doing the same thing at the front of a store in New York, and they killed him for it. So
that's where the cops were holding him and he's saying, I couldn't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yeah. So he was selling cigarettes by the onesie twosie out of a pack.
Right.
And died for it. So that's the difference between commerce in America and commerce in Australia. In America, they fucking kill you.
Mate, we had just last night, literally less than 24 hours ago, we had a guy in a house near where I live, which was very random. And they were trying to evict him, and he didn't want to go, and he got drunk, and eventually the cops came, and he went to stab one of the cops, and it turned into a 12-hour siege where
In
the cops
America, they just
waited.
light them up. Super
Agreed,
dead.
yeah.
Yep.
And in the end, they were just waiting and waiting, and they just wore him down, and eventually they took him out in handcuffs. But I lived in America for a while, and I remember once walking home. I lived in Malibu, Las Vegas, and Colorado. And this one night, this is a big shock to me. This was my first exposure to the American policing state. I'm walking home from a party in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm walking back to Colorado State University, and these two cops. I was walking home with this girl. It was lovely night in Colorado, and these two cops like ambushed me from bushes. It was weird. And they said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Whoa, I'm just walking home." And we were literally just walking home. And they heard my accent, and they said, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm just from Australia." And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm just," and I was freaking out. I'm just like, "Man, I'm just on exchange. I was just at a party. I'm just walking home." And they're like, "Have you been drinking?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was just at a party." And I was like 24, so I was over the age. And then they said, "Oh, you've been drinking?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh, well, we could arrest you for being a container." And I said, "What?" Now, by this stage, they had separated the girl from me. And they were basically, she told me later that they're saying, "Do you know this guy? Is he harassing you?" And she's like, "What do you mean? We're walking home. We're just at a party. We live on the same floor in the same dorm on the same campus at the same university." And it took ages and ages before they eventually let us go. And that was my first real exposure to American policing. And it really, not so much that I was scared, more that I was disappointed. I thought, wow, here I am walking down a footpath, not yelling, not driving, not throwing bottles. I'm literally walking down a path. And I had two cops jump out and really, if you will, rough us up, not physically, but certainly verbally.
Maybe the
And
cops are banging each other in the bush and they got mad that you caught them. I don't know, that
it
shit,
was
like
really
I've had similar situations where they just ask you more questions that are reasonable, and you're just thinking to yourself, "Ain't you got anything better to do?" I mean, these questions are retarded, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes late at night they ain't got nothing better to do, and they just feel like fucking with somebody. Because
yeah.
I mean, the only thing I can
It
think
is.
of about his mentioning container laws, an open container laws in the United States, you can't walk around with an open container of liquor most places. So stores invent a thing where they give you a paper bag to put around your alcohol so people can't screw with you because they don't know what's in it. It could be a normal drink, right? So, but if you weren't carrying an open container, and there isn't any crime related to that, public intoxication is illegal, but the word container is very specific. So,
Yeah, I think I recall being a little bit Aussie smarter. I think going, I'm not a container. I'm just a person. But you can't really,
you are a
it's just,
container, but you're the
yeah.
container if the cop plunges you in the elevator, which is very common in Miami. For some reason in Miami, the cops love to assault the people that are handcuffed with plungers in the butt for some reason. I don't know
What?
why. It's happened more than once down there in the Miami police station. Don't know why.
At the other end, did you see recently, or I'm sure you have, is that they're throwing water over cops in America? I think that's horrible. I think, uh,
I don't think you should fuck with people with guns. If
agreed.
someone's carrying a gun and you tease them, they might shoot you. So probably shouldn't do that.
That's one thing I sort of noticed living in LA, that people would sometimes, LA was probably one of the coldest, and I want to talk a little bit about this later on as we go further into the dating scene as a millionaire. But I remember when I was in LA, if you ever had confrontations with people, there seemed to be a line, and the line was drawn very quickly. And in my opinion, I can't be sure, but it was just in my opinion, the reason why it happened is because you never knew if someone was carrying. You always wondered, has that person got a gun on them? And certainly different laws in different states. In Colorado, you'd watch people rock up with shotguns in the back of their pickup. And in LA, I think there's slightly different laws. However, you could still get guns in Walmart, and that was very confronting as an Aussie. So On one hand, it sort of draws this line where, hey, I won't be too gobby to this person because if I'm too much of a smart ass, they could pull out a Glock.
Yeah.
But on the
People get
other
shot the
hand,
fuck up in America all the time. We have 35,000 gun deaths a year. That's a lot. So some of those aren't self-inflicted. You know, a lot of people are getting shot
mm,
every
the
year.
I think it was the Chinese chief of the military. They once asked him in an interview. They said, "Would you ever attack America?" And he said, "No, never." And they said, "Why?" And he said, "Because behind every blade of grass in America is an American with a gun." And I thought that was really powerful. It's you lose 30,000 people a year through gun deaths, but at the other end of that spectrum, it's like the ultimate insurance policy, you know. And
The
um,
Navy's more important. The reason that China can't invade is because they can't get their forces over, because they have
force
no,
projection. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So because we control the Navy, because we control the water, you cannot get any personnel to America. So you can't invade it. And kind of nuclear powers, of which China is one, doesn't actually need to invade to fuck you up. They have ICBMs just like we do. So the presence of nuclear power has changed ground warfare a lot. If you want to see an interesting and funny clip about it, you should watch a clip called Sausage Politics, where it says, you know, the Prime Minister of the UK is talking about funding this project that's a nuclear one. I can't remember what they called in the UK, whether it was Trident or something else. And and the guy that's talking to him says, "Okay, well, when would you press the button?" And he said, "Well, when I didn't have any chance." And he says, "Okay, well, is that when they're like in Piccadilly Square?" "Oh, no, before that." And he goes, "Okay, well, you know, the Germans invade, the Russians invade Germany for some reason." And then he just keeps talking about how they could keep pushing the limit farther and farther, and you would never hit that button because you always think that you have another option, right? And then what you find out is that you would have no clear time at which you will ever actually press the nuke button. And so what you actually need is conventional forces because you'll never actually launch. It's really interesting and funny
Mm.
the way that they did it. It was a comedy show. It's called My Dear Secretary or Dear something.
Through sausage politics. Check it
Yeah.
out. So you said your single greatest life decision was getting into business. The single worst life decision was
Worst life decision. I don't know. Like early on, buying mining hardware instead of coins was
I
pretty
can relate
bad.
to that, man.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
the coins became very valuable and the mining hardware did not. So,
but
oops.
you were one of the first to do GPU mining, so at least with
Yeah.
GPU mining, you could
Yep.
have some resale value with that.
Yep. True.
Yeah, I can relate, brother. Years ago I got into ASIC mining, and I still do. I still got my Litecoin L3 plus ASIC miners going in the background because I don't use much electricity, and I've got a big solar system, so it's actually very cost neutral. But in hindsight, if I could go back, I still would have bought some miners because I've learned a lot from it. Because I'm certainly not a programmer or an engineer, and mining has taught me heaps about the technical side of the different algorithms and how to mine. But I agree with you. If I could go back in time, I would have put, I think I spent about 40 or $50,000 on miners. Had I put that all into Bitcoin, I probably would have been in a much better position. Uh,
So that video, if you want to find it on YouTube, it's called "Yes, Prime Minister: Nuclear Deterrent Scrapping Trident."
yeah,
So
yeah. Yes, Prime Minister is a part of the series. Yeah, it's quite old, isn't it?
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, this particular video was posted 7 years ago, and
yeah.
it's
And that
probably
actually
quite
was
older
actually
than
made a
that.
while ago. Yeah, it's good that you get into the British humor.
Well, I'm not, but I'm into smart stuff, and this was smart. I'm into things that show that nukes are bad. Okay, I don't know. I don't like British humor that much.
There was also Blackadder. I don't know if you ever watched that, but that was along those lines of yes, Prime Minister, that type of humor.
Right?
Richard, in another video, you were asked if you have kids,
I do not.
or sorry,
Not that I know of.
you want kids?
Kids are like a trick. So your ability to influence the world consciously and through your being is larger on people that aren't your kids than your kids, which is why so many kids are not like their parents, even though their parents might like them to be. So if your goal is to influence the world, you're going to do more of it through media and the spreading of ideas and packaging ideas and virality. You get more from that than you will from your own offspring. Now, as far as your actual genes, which you express and make you the Keller you are and have the tone of voice that you have and, those things, if you want to pass those things on, which I don't think most people really care that much about, but if you really wanted to do that, then you do need to have your own kids. And you could do that by just donating sperm or donating eggs or paying someone to have your kid, or there's a whole lot of options. You could go the normal route and just find someone you love and have a kid together. That seems okay. But I mean, if your goal is to change the world, you could do it at scale like Genghis Khan did. And look, we're all kind of related to that guy because he banged so much. Or you could do it one by one. And the trick that I'm talking about is you're not supposed to want to have kids. You're supposed to want to have sex. And then you end up with kids, right? So it's just like wanting to be fit. It's better to want to lift weights than it is to want to be fit, because lifting weights works, but wanting to be fit doesn't work. So it's better to want directly the thing that leads to the result than it is to want the result a lot of the time, right? So as far as kids go, it's like the system works best when you want to have sex and then kids end up coming out of that, because otherwise I think that more kids are created by people that wanted to have sex and fun than they are created by people that really wanted to have kids. Is my opinion. So if you're willing to sacrifice a lot of stuff for something that doesn't have a personality for a few years and may turn out retarded and may not like you, there's a lot of bullshit that goes along with it. Now, maybe it works out. Maybe it's the best thing that's ever happened to you, right? My opinion on this might have been different if I knew more people that were having a great time with kids. And then I would have a better position to say, oh yeah, they're awesome. Go make a couple of them. It'll be the best thing you ever did. I can't advertise that because I don't really know anyone that's just had a fabulous time with it. I guess my parents like me and they speak well of the experience. So I guess I have one data point, but I don't know. If a girl I was with got pregnant, I'd have the kids because why not? But if nobody's pregnant yet, I'm not in a rush to start spreading my seed. There's a lot of overhead from that. If they didn't make you pay for the kids, it'd be different, right? Then have as many as you like. Go check on them, see if they're smart, brag about it. But as long as you got to pay the bills and they're, some poor percentage of your net income, percentage of your gross income every year, you can't really play that game or just, get 10 girls pregnant and then live poor the rest of your life. It seems shit. It seems not great. A lot of people do it. I mean, I know I've met African taxi drivers who, their father in Africa had 18 kids or some shit. And you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. We don't have a lot of that in America. We have some, but we don't have a lot. It's different in other cultures.
But of course, as you mentioned, it can cost a lot of money. And in the instance of, certainly in the West, we share these laws. It's not how much it costs to raise the kid, it's how much money you earn, and the more you earn, the more you will pay. And I think
which makes no goddamn sense.
Agreed.
The cost of raising a child should have absolutely no relation on your income at all, because diapers cost the same no matter how much you make. Doesn't make any sense.
This is why guys go MGTOW, because the state is coming into their relationship. But that is a whole different world. In your book, you actually spoke about the Cinderella effect and giving the kids to the state, and we want to explore this a bit later. But wasting away in college, what you were saying there is, as a parent, you can give so much to your kids, perhaps in influencing them. But what I think you were talking about in your book is a lot of people are just giving their kids to the state and saying, well, even though I'm their parent, you you tell them what they want through, for example, liberal arts, and teaching them how they should think and behave and what values are. I found that part of the book very powerful, and the Cinderella effect, that was surmised really well, Richard, and uh, it got me thinking about university, and I won't go down that path yet because I just want to raise it a bit later. But so I can finish off these questions. I've got two more
All
questions,
right.
and we can get into, believe it or not, the core of this. Ledger, Trezor, desktop, paper wallet, or other. What is the best way to secure crypto? Or a little bit in all.
Split your private keys up into pieces and spread those pieces places where you can find them and no one else can. Maybe that's safe
So you
deposit
actually take
boxes.
the actual key, and break it up.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right.
maybe that's safety deposit boxes. Maybe that's places you remember the GPS coordinates to. You have to decide what that is. Because hardware can fail. So you have to have your paper key backed up. I mean, you could stamp it on aluminum or steel. Use a die set to hammer in the stuff into whatever format you like. You know, you could even play games where the word that's written there really means another word to you, and then you could like substitute it when you see it, so that if you're compromised, you're still not compromised, kind of thing. So at some point, because that particular system of protection is nice, because then if you're ever kidnapped, they don't get any money. It's like, great, you kidnapped me, I can't pay you, good job, right? All the other stuff, so all that matters is those seed words. The other shit is just convenience. Like if you want to spend. So if you want to spend, that you need to have it in a hot wallet that you can spend from. And then your hot wallet can use the keys from the ledger or the Trezor or from whatever secure place you're storing your keys, right? It could be in your phone's encrypted enclave, secure enclave. It could be in a TSM chip of a computer. It could be, it could just be on your computer's hard drive in an encrypted directory, right? You've got a lot of different options for your hot wallet, and then that's it. So, I mean, hardware wallets all have attacks against them if you do not use a password. So your hardware wallet is only secure as your password, because you can extract the keys from them. So you have to have a password no matter what. So you could use a hardware wallet with a key, but then if someone grabs you and your hardware wallet and starts hitting you with a wrench, you lose all your money. So it's better that everyone know that kidnapping you ain't worth shit, because they can't get anything, because you have to go different locations to recreate your cold wallet.
Yeah,
that protects you physically.
I think about, when you use one of these and they're saying it's so secure, but it really, when you write down those 10 words or 20 words, whatever the words are, well, this actually becomes obsolete in the sense that everything's kind of a paper wallet when you're using these, because when you write down those seed words, you've now effectively got a paper wallet for recovery.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how secure this is. If someone finds those words that I've written down, then this doesn't even matter anymore.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. So if you have one or the other, you will be able to access your keys. So you are more likely to be able to access your money. However, attackers are also more likely to access your money because they have a larger attack surface for the same reason you have a larger recovery surface. So the easier it is for you to spend, the easier it is for someone else to spend. The easier it is for you to not lose all your keys, the easier it is for someone else to find those keys. There will never be any way around that. The easier it is for you, the easier it is for them. That never changes. The harder it is for you, the harder it is for them.
When you're talking about someone hitting you with a wrench, you're familiar with the Bitcoin time traveler?
I've heard of it. I've read it, but I don't understand the relevance.
Please do check out my video on it. Everyone, I'll leave a link in my channel below. So the Bitcoin time traveler, this guy comes along in Reddit, I think 2013, and he makes all these predictions about the price of Bitcoin. And what's scary about it is that those predictions are very accurate. But in one of his things that he's talking about, it's only about a 6-minute video where I actually have the entire transcription of what he said in this Reddit post. But one of the things that he said was what you referred to, is that he was saying that when people come back, when people are trying to get this money off other people, they basically torture them to get these private keys. They torture them to get the seed words. And as a result, those who, and what was also ironic about it is that people who were trying to stop Bitcoin fund the operations to stop Bitcoin by using Bitcoin. So it gets really deep and it's really powerful. But yeah, part of it that was scary was talking about torturing people to get these, to get their Bitcoin.
Well, the funny thing is, if you're into torturing people for money, most people that are wealthy, the majority of the world's wealth is not in Bitcoin. So if you want to go into the business of torturing people for money, you should start with everyone that's not in crypto, because they all have more money that you can get. So if you get the other money from people, spend it. What are you going to do with your stolen Bitcoin? The guy's going to, if you don't kill him, he's going to tell people what his addresses were, and then you're going to find it hard to get out of those coins, right? Bitcoin is not the ideal thing to steal. Cash, US dollars, is a better thing to steal. You can spend your cash wherever you want untraceably. You can't spend your Bitcoin anywhere. It's hard.
And that's the irony of the argument from the government saying, well, it's drug money, Bitcoin money. It's like, well, no, in fact, the US dollar is far more drug money than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is far more traceable than anything. And you mentioned before in the beginning you liked Ether and Monero, and I've actually spoken about, when I was speaking to Crypto Lark, I was talking about if the government were to come after a coin, perhaps the coin it would come after is something like Monero, because that is not traceable and that is the most private coin. So to the market, it's very appealing. Mm-hmm. But if you're a government, Bitcoin is actually quite appealing because it's very traceable, whereas Monero is not. And I've often wondered, I hold a bit of Monero, but I wonder if the government were going to chase something, would Monero in fact be in their crosshairs?
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's the top 20. We went through it. I want to move into dating as a millionaire. Mate, let me share a story with you. When I was in America, I went to university in both California and Colorado, and I didn't have much money when I went. I was in exchange, so I had my savings. I paid my uni fees in Australia, and I went on exchange to Malibu, and I went out to a club once in Hollywood. Now, this was a really interesting thing because I had lived in Spain before and I had lived in other countries. But when I went out into Hollywood, I remember walking into this nightclub, and mate, it was horrible. I walked into this nightclub and everyone was looking, my whole group, up and down, and it was actually a really cold environment. And in fact, Malibu and Los Angeles is probably one of the wealthiest places I've lived in the world, but it was also one of the coldest through human relations. I don't know where you live. You probably don't need to share, but as you get richer, how do you connect with people?
I think money is extremely overrated. Extremely. I don't think anyone gives a fuck how much money you have at all. And if they do, maybe those aren't the people you're looking for. So as far as dating, everyone thinks that what you need to be successful dating is whatever they don't have. So if a guy's really strong and good looking, but he doesn't have money, he thinks you need the money. If a guy is really wealthy but ugly, he thinks you need the looks. If a guy's really wealthy and really strong and really good looking, he thinks you need to be funny, right? So everyone thinks that what you need is the thing that you don't have. It's not the case. So sciVive has a pretty good section in the respect/romance chapter. And in an ideal world, the 10s date the 10s, the 9s date the 9s, the 8s date the 8s, because we're pair bonding 1-to-1 for the most part. A world where the 2s get the 10s would be fucked up. It seems weird, right? Because everyone wants to do the best they can do. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, go ahead and slap a number on yourself and then think about what number you're trying to get. And if you're a 5 and you're trying to get 7s, you're going to have a hard time because you're not supposed to get 7s because you're a fucking 5. And it's even worse than that, really. So women have something called hypergamy, and hypergamy means that women want to date people at a higher perceived social status than they are so that they can derive social profit from it. Men care about reproduction. We want good hip to waist ratio, nice body, nice smile. You never see guys asking, hey, is she good at math? Bro, like, how good is your girl at accounting? Can she program VCRs? Guys don't care about that shit at all, right? So girls care about social status, and how a girl perceives social status is different depending on the girl. Some girls really like money. Some girls really hate money. So because of the way I carry myself and my identity, a girl that likes BMWs will like me. A girl that likes wooden jewelry and hugging trees and loose, hanging dresses that are deep forest green, basically hippies, they don't like me that much, right? They look at me as the enemy without me having done a goddamn thing, because they chose to not like money. I chose to like money, so girls that like money like me. Notice that in actuality, the actual money is not a component here. We just have similar interests and respect similar things. So if you were a young person without much money but liked it and were working towards it, then a girl that liked money would like you, unless they were just a straight up gold digger. In my experience, straight up gold diggers are actually extremely rare because people's needs are already met. People have food and have a place to live and, have comfort, they have air conditioning, they have television. They don't need to date a fucking 2 that has money and deal with the fucking ugliness of the 2 to try and fulfill something extra with the cash. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. So, people look at me and they're like, fat, old, no way this guy is getting something good. But I've had amazing stuff my entire life. Before I had money, after I had money, didn't make any difference at all. That shit is not on their list. It's really not on their list. Do they care about height? Yes. Do they care about muscles? Yes. Do they care about what your face looks like? Yep. Do they care about who your friends are? If you want to date them for a while, yeah, right? But on Tinder, go on Tinder, okay? And go ahead and put up 2 profiles that aren't you as a test, right? One of a rich guy and one of a fit guy, and see which one does better. And you'll see the rich guy get his ass stomped. The same way you can see the rich guy get his ass stomped in day-to-day life in the club, or in day-to-day life, go see who girls are marrying. The rich too ain't fucking getting it done, right? So if you want to have more success with women, money is not the answer. And there is a science of making girls happier that you can read about. And it's like a performing art, right? If you set a frame and have a strong frame and have good posture and, are comfortable in your skin, and the list just goes on, stuff that you'd like. If you were a girl, what would you like, right? And if the guy has those traits, attraction's not a choice. They're going to like you, period, whether you think they should or not. Girls like me. If I were a girl, I wouldn't like me, but girls do, because they care less about the looks and more about all the other stuff. Well, fucking A, lucky me. I thought at this age that dating would be over. There would be no chance. Way too old. It's not. It's easier and better than it's ever been. I didn't think that was the case. I have a theory. I didn't think it would be the case. I have a theory on it, and my theory is that as you get older, you're allowed to be heavier because people expect that because it's more normal. But if you're younger and heavier, it's more weird and more sucky. So that's my only guess as to why it has worked like that.
How old are you now, Richard?
39.
I'm still young.
Yeah.
I've got you by a couple of years.
Yeah.
I want to read a quote from your book, if I may. Just page 383. It says, "I can tell you that being a good womanizer is very, very time consuming.
Yeah.
You will spend your days hunting and scheming and dating and gaming and fucking, and in the end, you're very likely to get the same results out of it than most other men have. They in general don't become rich nor powerful for making women want to have sex with you, and one by one is more of a sales thing and less of a product development thing. Are you finding now that as you get...
Did the stream drop? My stream of the guest dropped. So I will try and get him back. He's back. I see movement.
I'm here.
Okay, you're back. So you left off saying, am I finding?
Are you finding that as you get more into business and more wealth, that you have less time for the dating scene at all?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
does that bother you?
Yeah, I stopped going out entirely since I've been working on HEX because it's just more interesting to me. And I have people that I'm already very happy with, that I have better experiences with than anything. If you want to have top tier best sex you've ever had, you're going to need to do that with someone that you've trained, because the stuff that you like, someone that you just met, they don't know that you like that, right? So, or you could have such low standards that any sex at all is good to you. I like better sex more than I like normal sex. So since I already have people in my life that I'm very comfortable with and happy with, that make me feel better than anyone could make me feel without training, for me it's a very good deal to interact with those people than it is to try and create new ones or do the variety thing and have more. It's very, very, very time consuming. If you're doing social circle and you have someone else that's already in the game and you're just attending the parties that he's already set up, then maybe life's easier for you, right? But if you're the guy that's doing all the lead generation, setting up the dates, making all the cool stuff happen, making sure cool people are there, once you reach a certain level of wealth, you kind of have a manager do that for you. Once you get double digit millions, you can afford to just have someone as their full-time job, make sure cool things are happening and cool people are showing up to those things, which is more of a Bilzerian kind of lifestyle. That's not my focus right now. It was my focus when I hadn't done it before. Just like photography used to be my focus. I don't care now at all. I don't bring my camera with me anywhere because I don't care, because I don't look at the photos. Yes, I'm good at taking them. No, I'm never going to look at them. I don't give a shit anymore, right? So I've got all the cameras, all the lenses, know everything you'd want to know about f-stops and bokeh and everything else, but I just don't care anymore. And it's just kind of the same thing with girls, right? I could go put myself in the right place, talk to every pretty girl there, see which ones respond well, and do the whole rigmarole. But then what's my long-term profit on that? These are people I interact with maybe 6-7 hours, and then maybe I don't see them again. It's a lot of upfront cost for limited benefit if you already have an amazing thing going on. If you don't have anything going on, that shit's a lot of fun. I suggest it, right? But if you've already got a lot of awesome sensuality in your life, that shit's too time consuming. It's not a good risk reward ratio anymore. It's just too expensive at that point.
Do you have any thoughts on the MGTOW?
Mostly losers. Yeah, they're mostly losers. They're guys that couldn't make it. So it's just like people end up choosing where their niche is going to be. So when you're young and you go to school, you couldn't be a jock, and you couldn't be a nerd, and you couldn't be preppy, and you couldn't be, and then you end up being goth, and that's like the bottom tier. You're like, okay, I couldn't be any of these other things, so now I've ended up being goth. So it's like you can't, if they could change and upgrade, they would, right? You're like, yeah, I wish I was fit. Maybe I'd do good in the jock team or whatever. Well, that's what happened to MGTOWs. They just failed out of every other genre. And the last piece of shit thing that they could get into, which at least wastes their time less, is the like, oh, well, I'm just going to stop wanting it, right? And then if you remove all your desires and you stop wanting, it's very similar to Zen Buddhism. You become a fucking loser. You become a happy, smiling loser through reduction of desire. Good job. And while you're living on nothing, the rest of the world is creating a legacy and creating the future of mankind and curing disease and having sick as fuck orgasms. It's better. It's better in every way. and it's the way we're designed, and it's what allowed us to exist. You know, you are an unbroken chain of girls wanting to have sex with guys for every single generation before you, all the way to a common ancestor near the when the world was nearly frozen and there was only 600 of us during the Ice Age. So the human beings went down to about 600 people. Well, from those 600 people to the 7.2 billion we have now, you are an unbroken chain of people getting laid and taking care of their kids. And then some people come along and they're like, yeah, fuck all that. What works? Let's just pretend that, you know, I don't want girls anymore. And it's just stupid. It's like, how about you become a better you, right? If everyone became better thems and everyone was physically fit and emotionally fit, everyone would have more sex and better sex, and we'd have more kids that were intelligent and useful, and we'd make more progress faster as a race, the human race. MGTOW and this shit I said earlier about not having kids because it's like a trick, it's actually bad for humanity. You're optimizing your local good at a great cost to the society, which, you know, it's okay if you plan on dying soon, I guess. But if you plan on sticking around for a while, you're going to, in 10 or 20 years, it's going to be a shittier planet.
I think this actually leads to my next question, because it's quite a passionate argument at the moment. Is MGTOW a matter of survival, or is it a choice? Or in any case, I found that it leads on to my next question. You seem to have a lot of courage. Like, you don't seem to be scared to talk about anything. And the example I'd like to give is Fauxtoshi. And if you look at a lot of the videos in the crypto community, people are sometimes too scared to talk about him because they're worried about being sued by him.
Well, there's two. Go ahead.
Well, I've never seen that to be the case with you. I see that right from years ago, I think 2 years ago. Well, when it first came out, you gave a good discussion about how it linked into the ATO, the Australian Taxation Office. And I actually didn't know anything about it until I was watching your stuff, and I'm like, why is he talking about the ATO? And then, of course, I looked into it. I'm like, oh, right, that kind of makes a lot of sense. And, you know, moving further down the track, Craig went on BBC television and said, I don't want any credit, I don't want any fame, I don't want to be in front of the cameras, I don't want to ever talk about this, and I will never ever be on camera again. Not the verbatim, that's not what he said verbatim. I'm saying that because I don't want to get sued. But then he's been in front of the camera a lot. Now, should we be concerned about being sued simply for talking about this person? And why do you never seem to have any fear when talking about anything?
Well, if you want to prevent people from getting scammed, you can't actually name the scam, because then they Google it and then some percentage of them fall for it. So what you have to use is a diode, which is just a one-directional path. So if you already know about the scam, I can warn you about it. But if you don't know about the scam, you're not going to be able to find it. So when I talk about people pretending to be Satoshi and say certain facts about them, you're not going to know what to Google to get screwed over by them. But if you already did know who they were and what they were trying to do, then the warnings would apply to you, because then you would know what I'm talking about. That's the ideal, best way to deal with fraudulent websites, fraudulent actors, imposters, all of that stuff. If you actually mention the thing by name, then some percentage of the people that you mention it to will get screwed and fall for it because they're fucking retarded. So I don't mind talking about people pretending to be Satoshi, and then you don't know who to Google from there, right? So I don't use people's names that you can Google that would allow them to lure you into falling for their bullshit. When Satoshi wants to prove that he is Satoshi, he invented a cryptographic system whose entire existence is to reduce and remove trust through the use of cryptographic signatures. Such a person that invented such a system would very simply sign one of the early blocks that the inventor was known to have created. Period. If they don't do that, then they are not Satoshi. And even if they did that, they could have just stolen his keys. You need more.
Do you think the courts that he's going through at the moment will expose this? Because I wonder if they're actually smart enough to actually know what's happening.
Yeah, they are, and it's looking bad for him. So he's already defending himself from getting charged with contempt. And if you're under, let me put it to you this way: if you are being charged with contempt, I would imagine that it's very, very likely that you're also going to lose the case. And then you're going to have a judgment against you, and that judgment may be collectible against the assets that you have in jurisdictions that would respect the judge's order. So if you owe someone money in a country because the judge said that you did, there's a lot of other countries that will garnish your wages and take your stuff away to help fulfill that other foreign court's request, right? So I'm not an expert on the interjurisdictional interplay between the UK and the United States, but I would find it very likely that a civil asset seizure order in the United States, some paperwork could be done to make it applicable in the UK. Otherwise, anytime someone ever lost a civil suit, they just move, right? Oh, I lost. I owe you money. Moving to the UK. I don't think that works. So there's countries where it would work that don't have cross-border agreements, but I don't think the UK would be one of them.
Well, I appreciate you standing up for the situation for what it was ages ago, like right from the beginning. I got a lot out of it. You happy to move on to your book, sciVive?
Sure.
Okay, so to the listeners out there, you must read this book. So it's over 400 pages. And Richard, although you haven't edited it, I actually like that. I kind of like that it's raw, because I've written a book, and editing, I could really relate to the editing, because that's a bit that kills you. You can pump out a lot of ideas, but to really polish it and clean it up, it's a grind. You've really got to get into it. But in your book, where you've basically left a lot of references there and a lot of web addresses, and just in some of your sentences you've put something XX, where it's like, oh, he's obviously going to put something in here a bit later. I think it's great. I think in many ways, don't polish it, because I like to understand how you're thinking. But to our viewers out there, you spoke about being a survivalist, like a scivivalist. And a few things that I got out of it in particular was, I like the color of clarity, that being clear. And being clear is a balance of all the colors to essentially make white or nothing clear. And that was really powerful. And the magic number of 3. But just the title, or sorry, the book cover itself, where you've got this great, I don't know, what would you call it? Like a logo or a map?
It's the Trinity Shield that has been co-opted for my purposes with some better text. The original Trinity Shield is quite silly.
So you've taken that shield and you've put mind, body, spirit as sort of like the 3 outlying corners.
Right.
Then the 3 ones within that is money, power, respect.
Yep.
Then time, environment, and experience.
Yep.
And the time component was really powerful to me, because as I get older and I'm running my own projects and doing more things, time seems so precious to me, and it's why I'm very grateful tonight, because you're giving me time, and I'm very grateful for that. And it's, to me, time and energy are the most powerful commodities that we can have, because you can't replace time, and energy as we get older becomes seemingly more finite. But there was one part that really struck me, and I wanted to ask you about it. It said successful people had hardships at life, and this was very early in the book. And I remember doing some course ages ago about what is your comeback story. So people like a good success story, but everyone loves a really good comeback story. And I'm wondering if you're comfortable sharing, a really big hardship that you had in your life that helped you come back from it.
Sure.
What's your comeback?
Cover all that stuff. So first, I'll cover like the sciVive book cover. If you want the book, it's t.me/sciVive, like survive through science, SCIVIVE. And if you want to take all of human behavior and split it up into groups, it's really hard because a lot of behavior there. And I invented a way, which I think is really special, that I have never seen before, where all of life is divided into 3 parts, which is what you are now in this moment, which is your mind, your body, and your spirit. Your spirit's your emotional system, your drives. Your body is your body. How strong and fast are you? You know, what's your resting heart rate, stuff like that. And then your mind, which is, you know, what techniques do you have to reason about ideas? What inputs are you looking at? Where are you getting your data from? How can you think about things better? You know, being smarter, stuff like that. So that's a snapshot of what you are. Now, what you are now is not what you will be in the future. So the second phase is the amplifiers, and that's money, power, respect. So money makes you more of what you already are. If you're an asshole, you'll be a bigger asshole. If you're a nice guy, you'll be a nicer guy. And power are the skills that you have, right? How fast can you type? How good are you at hiring people? What do you know what a good hire looks like? What's your respect is kind of like who you're working with. What's your peer group? Can you get people to do what you say? Can you attract the right kind of people? Can you find love in your life? How do you find a good partner? How do you be a good friend? How do you make a good apology, right? So money, power, and respect are how strong and how quickly you will transition from what you are into what you'll become, right? And then time, environment, and experience is how you become that thing. So you've got what you are, and you've got your amplifiers, and then you've got what you schedule, which is what you do, which is what you will become, right? So, and then that's it. And yeah, read the book. There's also the second one about, you know, politics and systematic stuff, education, things that you can't change individually but are super important as a system. So hardships I've had. I mean, the reason I started my first business is because I had to pay for some dental work that I couldn't afford, and my dad didn't have the money and I didn't have the money. And so I just started selling everything that I owned. And everything that I owned at that age was car stereo stuff. And I bought it at such a good deal because my dad had done the air conditioning for a manager at this store called BrandSmart, and he was giving me stuff at a very low price because they have, you know, if you work at BrandSmart, you can go to the screen and choose what level to sell people at, and they have like 3 prices, and they've got the cheapest price you can sell it at, or if you sell it at the middle or higher price, you make a commission that's higher, right? So they're happy to do volume with their suppliers to get lower prices, so they're happy to sell at those lowest prices or at the higher prices, which the salesman makes a little more commission on. And so I started selling everything that I had, those car stereo stuff, and I noticed that what the prices I was getting after using it for 2 years were, you know, about what I'd paid for it 2 years earlier. So I thought, damn, I must be getting a really good deal here. Why don't I just advertise stuff I don't have yet, and then, you know, have people meet up with me, they can give me the money, and then I'll go drive and get the stuff and meet them and hand it off. And so I did that, and it worked great because I'm selling people. So you get a Punch 800 amplifier at Best Buy for like $600, or you could get the same Punch 800 amplifier, 800 watt RMS, 1600 watt max. Would drive 412s of that era wonderfully. Fill up a trunk with 12s, bang out your neighbors. You know, you could get that same amplifier at BrandSmart for maybe, you know, $550 or something, or you could get it from me from like $475, $495, and then my cost on it was like $395 or $395, I think. So you could pay a lot at Best Buy, or you could pay less at BrandSmart, or you could pay less from me, right? Now BrandSmart got theirs directly from the factory, and then so basically, like, once you do enough volume, you can buy directly from the factory. But if you're a normal store, you have to go from the local wholesaler, and then the local wholesaler will complain when they see that you're routing around them, right? So anyway, yeah, I mean, The reason I started the most important thing that I did in my life, which was my first business, was because I ran out of money and had to pay a medical bill, right? And I've had other hardships, but none of them have turned into such good things. A lot of the other hardships just stayed hard, right? So like I got the shit robbed out of me in a third world country. Never saw anything back from that except hardship, right? There was no upside, no good stuff. I guess I only live in really nice countries now, so I guess that's an upside. But
Was it a violent robbery?
some of it, I mean, there was a home invasion, but I wasn't there for that. There's a lot of bullshit that went down there. If you live in the third world and you have your friends and family tell you that it's dangerous and you Google it and you see it's not, you're just not looking at the right newspapers. In third world countries, there's always two newspapers at least. One that makes the country look good and one that shows a dirty underbelly of all the shootings and dead people hanging out of cars and in the street and such. And there's no crossover. They're not showing the pictures of the bodies in the popular "the country looks good" paper, but they're showing them in the other paper, right? So yeah, just don't live in the third world. Don't do it. Pay more to live somewhere good.
Yeah, when I lived in
learned that lesson
Spain,
the
I
hard
was
way.
only 18, but I was probably too ignorant to know what was going on. But there was a lot of theft, and
Which part of Spain?
I was in Barcelona. I went
Yeah.
to uni there for a while, and La Ramblas, it was,
know.
well, anywhere actually, was out of control. When
I
you sat
stayed
down
on
in
I stayed on Carrer Arcius Marc outside Plaza Catalunya. I stayed there for a month, and I've been down to Las Ramblas a few times.
It's
fucking
funny,
hot
the
down there. So
Catalonians are quite passionate. I remember once, my Spanish is pretty good, and I remember once going to a store to buy something, and I don't know if you remember mini disc players. So it was a Sony mini disc player,
you were
and
there
it was
before me.
actually quite a big buy.
That's a while ago.
That's showing our age now.
That's a while
And,
ago.
Yeah, man, that was when I was.
I do
18.
remember minidisc, but holy shit, that's like it's like late 90s.
Yep. Yeah, I was there in, I think, 97. I've still got the thing, and of course it had to fail because MP3 came out.
Yeah.
And it's just little and phones even more so. But I remember going into a shop and trying to speak in Spanish, and well, I was speaking in Spanish, and he kept answering me in Catalan.
Catalan, yeah.
Yeah, and I said to him in Spanish, look, I'm really sorry, I don't speak Catalan. ¿Me puedes hablar en inglés? Can you speak to me in English? Oh, sorry, in Espanol. Can you speak to me in Spanish? And he just said no. He goes, this is Barcelona. We are the capital of Catalunya. And if you don't speak Catalan, too bad. And I said, well, can I speak to your manager? And he goes, I am the manager. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. You didn't want my money. But
And they've got other languages over there. There's 5 languages in Spain. Basque is another one.
yeah, Basque.
So like,
Spanish.
I think everyone needs to speak one language, truthfully. The world is less effective and less efficient because we can't cooperate with each other, because we can't even fucking talk to each other. I mean, if you try and do business in China, it's extremely hard to find someone that speaks English, including their English-speaking sales rep. That bitch don't speak English right. Like, it's a nightmare. It's really hard.
Well, they had a nightmare in China with themselves of speaking Mandarin and Cantonese, but there's now a bit of pressure because of. I can kind of understand what they've done. The Chinese government has said, no, okay, we're going to have one official language and it's going to be Mandarin. But as a result, Cantonese is gently being squeezed out. Gently is probably a nice word. But in any case, I can kind of see what they're trying to do. Like when I was in China, I'm trying to pick up Chinese. And it's like, well, which Chinese? Mandarin or Cantonese. But at least now we've kind of got one. On your book also, I liked your saying, or it's actually an ancient saying, but you emphasized it. Said, I fear the man who has practiced. I fear the man who has not practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. What sort of skill can you apply that to? Where I was struggling, I guess, to try and adapt that from your book to my life, is that I try and get a skill and I practice it over and over again, but by the time I get it, it's already expired, and I've now
You're choosing the wrong skills then. You shouldn't learn those ones. You shouldn't be learning ones that expire. If you learn human resources, it never expires. If you learn sales, it never expires. If you learn Posture, it never expires. There's a lot of things that you should learn that you ain't never going to outgrow, and they're not going to change. If you learn piano, it ain't changing. If you learn technical skills, like what's the best CPU right now, or what's the fastest RAM, that shit expires every 2 years. So there's knowledge that has a longer shelf life than other knowledge. And I regret knowing as much about computers as I do, because like software doesn't change, truthfully. The frameworks change, but the actual, you have data, the data gets processed and it gets stored, and then those algorithms, they don't ever change. Very rarely will a new algorithm been found, right? So like you should learn things that have lasting value. You shouldn't be learning things that have expiring value.
So you that's where you basically outsource those technical skills.
I do the wrong thing and just know all that stuff myself better than most people, and I shouldn't.
So applying that to the HEX project, you've got, and I'm the first to put my hand up here and say I'm not a coder in this space. So my background, I guess, is kind of languages, economics, and a master's of business, which is skills in nothing. It's not these applied skills, but I certainly did enjoy at uni organizational behavior, which is what you're talking about, people. And I found that when I was building my website, I went to India online. I didn't actually travel there, but I got some really great websites done with some really great returns, as in it was very cheap to do it, but very high quality. So when you're building HEX, as you know, I did a really detailed review on your project, and it was previously called Bitcoin HEX, and I did change the thumbnail, so I've been a good boy. The thumbnail did say Bitcoin HEX, but I recently changed that to say...
Well, I mean, it was old video, so it may have been Bitcoin HEX at that time.
It was, yeah, it was. And I actually got a lot out of researching that video, and I think the concept's great. But when you were making it, how do you get coders to do this? Like, who is doing this?
Well, you have to find people that can do it, and then you have to make sure they do it. And so we've rotated through 5 different developers, and some people left the project better than they found it, and others did nothing. And that's kind of the hardship of relying on people doing what they said that they were going to do. If you can't physically see the code and you are taking someone else's word that it's being done, you're taking them at their word. And then one day you could find out that they weren't truthful. So I had a guy that was going to do the front end, talked a lot of nice shit. And when I say front end, I mean like the website front end, like the actual website. Didn't do anything. I ended up using the same, I ended up fixing and editing with one of my other devs the stuff that was already there, and just letting that guy go, right? So there's $6,000. Just see ya. Just goodbye, $6,000. Now I didn't have to pay the guy, but I also don't want anyone bad mouthing me, right? Literally, the guy did nothing, literally. But I want everyone that I work with to be happy with the experience, because it's part of the reputation. So I'm willing to eat the $6K in order to have a good reputation. What else? And yeah.
Was that
so
why? Is that why it's delayed? Is that part of the reason?
No, that was a long time ago. So the first major delay that we hit was we ran into a business logic bug, which was critical in that a shorter staker could earn more than a longer staker just through recompounding their stake outside the system, which is a critical vulnerability as far as I'm concerned. The whole system is designed so that longer pays better, just like the real world. You get a CD, you lock up your money for longer, you get paid more. You lock up a larger amount, you get a jumbo CD, you get paid more. We emulated those same things digitally. I guess they're digital in the real world too, but we emulated those things in our system. And so we had to invent a way to maintain the ability for longer stakers to get paid more than shorter ones. And it involved reducing the front load where the guy's in the first day. I mean, the way the math worked out in the original system when we started modeling it was that, if you were in the first day, you were going to get like a 500x on your money in HEX. Well, that's stupid. A guy that's in 1 day earlier than another guy does not deserve 20 times the money. That's stupid, right? You should be paid more for being in earlier, but not hundreds of percent more for a day earlier. That's stupid, right? And so we had to keep massaging and changing all the metrics until we got charts that would result in the highest price appreciation for the currency, which is what the whole project's designed for. It's programmed to pump. So you need to leave meat on the bone for the next guy to want to buy into the restaurant, right? So you can't give all of your rewards to this first day guy, because then you don't have rewards left for the next guy. So it's got to be fair and equitable and reasonable for everyone to get some mad gains. So, like if you give all your mad gains to the guy that's in first day, what are you going to give to the guy at day 180 that just heard about it? He's got to be able to see some gains, right? So what we did was we took the lump sum. We were originally paying people out the unclaimed coins, crediting their accounts daily. Well, instead we changed it. So now everybody that's in before the 351st day, which is the lump sum payout day, all of those guys get paid the lump sum unclaimed coins. And so by shifting it from being paid gradually, which let the guys get in first just get farther and farther ahead, now everyone that's in that phase gets that lump sum. And it should help the price chart too, because the advantage to getting earlier gets larger and larger, or the payout that you get. So you want to get staked early to get the lowest share price, so you can get the most shares, so you can get the largest cut of the giant payout on day 350, right? So, and it's also awesome because we have this adoption amplifier that lets you transform Ethereum into HEX, and the affiliates will love that, because if an affiliate wants to make money promoting HEX and the only people they can sell to are Bitcoin holders, that's a very small market. And if the only people they can make money on are Bitcoin holders that had Bitcoin back at the snapshot date, let's say 180 days ago, right? Well, you can't get people to travel back in time and buy Bitcoin. So the ability for them to transform Ethereum into HEX allows the affiliates to onboard users that didn't have Bitcoin then, and to onboard users after the snapshot, and onboard users that have never had Bitcoin and don't want to have Bitcoin. That's the majority of humans, right? So it's just great from that perspective. So a lot of improvements. Those two things were the biggest improvements. So now we also have auto staking. So we were basically delayed by improvements in the system, which are okay delays to have. We improved the game theory. We improved the shapes to onboard more users and show everyone a return on investment. We improved the number of people that can be onboarded. The effectiveness of the affiliates, it's all been improved, and we had delays from that. I think the most recent delays are just the front end was harder than I thought it would be, and the guy that was doing it wasn't doing it to the degree that he could, and so now we have another guy in there. And since the contract is done, the lead contract dev now has time to help the front end guy, and they're working together, and it's working pretty well. And I can show you how to build the contract on your own computer, host it on your own local blockchain, and call functions and start a stake, end a stake, join a lobby, transformation lobby that turns ETH to HEX, leave one. Those things all work now. Claiming should work, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, and then that's it. I mean, there's the only things you can do with HEX, or you can send it and you receive it, which we don't have to do any real coding for, because that's boilerplate. Comes with the Open Zeppelin ERC20 system. The things that we have to develop or have developed that are unique and special are the ability to open a stake, close a stake, perform good accounting in case you don't want someone to get penalized for a stake that expired and they didn't get their tokens out after the 2-week grace period. You can kind of virtually end their stake without them receiving any money by running good accounting. And then so open, close a stake, run good accounting, refer somebody, join a lobby, leave a lobby. That's it. Those are the only functions that we have that are custom, right? And you can run them all except claim right now, using the code that I could link you to.
feedback to you on your site, I really liked. I'd never seen this before, but in your frequently asked questions or just the question section, it was really good that there were some questions that you just answered with the word no, and that was so funny, because you're so used to normal, I don't know, traditional businesses going yada 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 yada, but it was great. I'm reading
Yeah.
through these questions, and it's like, can this happen? You're like, no. Next one, can this happen? No. So that was great. And don't change that style, Richard, because it helped me learn a lot about it without any confusion. And I could actually
Agree.
sort of feel your language coming through in those questions.
We do a lot of stuff in Hex is amazing. So I think the Pumpamentals are unrivaled. The game theory is unrivaled. The logo I absolutely love. We have a t-shirt store that's built that I can basically click a button and turn on. I'm just kind of waiting for my sample to make sure it's awesome.
I
It's
can
got
see you're
everything.
wearing a lot
It's
of HEX
got,
today.
yeah, a lot of Hex
I
stuff
like the
here.
bracelet.
Yeah, I just need to, these, I will have more Hex stuff very soon. So I ordered a Hex shirt and a Hex mug and a Hex polo. But we've also got hats and bean bags and bikinis and crop tops and backpacks and fanny packs and flip flops. Yeah, and people want them. So it's not just that people want them. I would add them to the project with all of those things that people are unlikely to buy, like a bean bag. I am unlikely to buy the Hex bean bag, but having it when no one else does, it's nice. It shows that we do things a little bit better, and they're priced a little bit more expensive than other ones. So you can buy a Bitcoin shirt on there because I added one for giggles for maybe like $25. But if you want the Hex one, it's $36. Why? Well, and our inflation is 3.69, so we put the price at 36.9, and we want it to be more because we want to look better, because we want our currency to be more valuable. And I don't want to be the low price leader discount cryptocurrency, nor do I care to be the low price leader discount cryptocurrency shirt. If you're wearing one of these shirts, you paid more for it than a person wearing another crypto shirt. Period. And if that hurts sales, fine. If you can afford to wear these shirts, great, then you can represent, right? So I don't know how much people care about an extra $10, but it matters, right? Like the halo image matters. It's why Toyota has Lexus. It's why Nissan has Infinity. It's why Honda has Acura. They're halo products that add authenticity and greatness to your other offerings.
The two things that sold me on the project, and I mean, let's face it, when it came out, it got a lot of resistance, but I suppose every project does. It gets a lot of pushback, and there was one interview you did, and it was years ago, well, feels like years ago, maybe it wasn't. Everything's moving so quick. I talk about things, one human year being 7 crypto years, or the other way around, when everything moves so quickly. But you're in one interview, and there was a guy who, it was really uncomfortable because you had done this long interview, and right at the end he goes, "No, I just don't believe in it." And you're like, "Why, man?" And he goes, "XYZ," and you're like, "It's not." And he goes, "No." And I'm glad you still published it, and this is part of the reason why I like the project. The two main reasons I like it is because initially it's not costing anything. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. After reviewing this thing for hours, you're not asking for money. You're not asking for my Bitcoin. You just want to see a screenshot, so to speak, of my Bitcoin, and
There's
then in
two.
return,
Go ahead.
you give me, I can't remember, what, 10,000 per.
Yeah. So here's how it works. The original plan was we're going to do a fork of Bitcoin on Ethereum, and we're going to fix some things. We're going to fix the unit bias so that instead of paying 0.0000 something for something, you can use better units. You can pay like 10 of something for something.
Yep.
We're going to make it so that holders get paid to hold instead of miners get paid to mine, because miners are not your friend. You send your money to China, and they take your money and try and start a competing currency that competes with yours, that steals the brand name, and and steals the miners too. At one point, Bitcoin Cash had 50% of the hash rate of Bitcoin. At one point, Bitcoin Cash was worth 50% of Bitcoin. They tried to kill Bitcoin, and they did that with your money that you gave them from buying mining hardware from Bitmain. Okay? So how about we have less of that, right? How about we have less megacorps and less trustedness and more trustlessness, right? So you can claim for free Bitcoin HEX by signing a statement from your wallet. Electrum supports it. Bitcoin Core supports it for almost everything. They don't support it for the BC1 address for some reason, but not that many people use it. And Coinobia Mobile supports it. They don't support it on desktop. So Electrum's my favorite of all those. You go to the website, hex.win, you paste your Bitcoin address, you copy paste the statement to your wallet, you click sign, you copy paste the signature back, you click submit, you're done. You never send your private keys. You never install weird software. Totally safe. As long as you had the 3 cents or 2 cents to send your transaction, or someone else retransmitted it for you, because it's safe to retransmit, because your Ethereum address, which is your Bitcoin HEX address, your HEX address is in there, and your Bitcoin address is in there. So anyone else can rebroadcast that, and you're going to be getting your coins. There's no way for anybody else to take your coins. So you need 2 or 3 cents, like United States pennies worth of Ethereum to do that, or someone else out of the niceness of their heart could rebroadcast it for you. Now, if you wanted to buy in and pay for them, you can transform Ethereum into HEX. You can do that, right? You don't have to. You can claim the free ones. When you claim the free ones,
been the case?
No, that was added. That was the thing I was telling you about.
Okay, yeah.
So auto staking was added. So if you go in Australia, if you drive on the highway, you might see some billboards that say free tickets for Wet and Wild or free tickets for something. And if you call them, they'll say, listen, yes, we're going to give you those free tickets, but you got to come see our sales presentation. And they're going to try and sell you some timeshare or some multi-level thing. Now, why does that work? Because enough people go there and see the presentation and buy it that they have enough money left over that they can hand out free tickets to everyone that came. So in effect, what happens is that the people that went there and bought the thing paid for the free tickets for everybody else. HEX is kind of the same thing. Yes, you can claim it. You can get it for free. It's going to be if you claim for free, 90% of your coins are going to be locked for 50 weeks because we want you to see gains. So you're going to be locked in to that big lump sum payout that comes at the end of the 50 weeks, day 351. You're going to see those gains. You're going to see that appreciation, and you're going to see it on paper the whole way there. So come get your free coins, and we're going to show you some gains. And then after you've seen gains, you can dump if you want. All right? You can dump 10% just off the bat. Go ahead. But the rest, the 90% that's auto staked, you got to see the gains on. Now, why do we do that? Because we don't want anyone dumping their damn coins. We want the price to go up. Everything in the system is designed for the price to go up. Well, what's the opposite of the price going up? People selling. So how do you get people not to sell? They lock their coins, and they lock them for longer to get higher rewards, and you don't hand out free coins to people to just dump on you. So if I make it so that if I gave a person that was likely to buy more coins, they were going to lock their coins longer than 50 weeks anyway because they want the bigger bonuses because they believe in the project. So those guys don't care about auto staking. They're going to just stake for longer anyway. The people that were going to dump on day one, they hate auto staking because they wanted to dump it all, not just 10%. And so now they're less likely to claim in the first place. Awesome. Fuck those guys. We don't want those guys. We don't want guys that dump. We want guys that buy, right? So adding auto staking is the same reason that you have to attend the sales presentation before you give the tickets. They don't give you your tickets over the phone. They don't give you your tickets at the beginning of the presentation. You'll just walk out. They make you wait. Why? Because it becomes profitable for them to do so. And we treat our onboarding system through the freemium the same way. Furthermore, do people want to pay for a thing that is free, or do they want to get an expensive thing for free? An expensive thing you get for free is very valuable. A free thing that you had to pay for doesn't feel as good. So having some place where people are willing to exchange real currency for a thing, it's useful and it's good. So if you look at the top 10, if you look at the top 100 market cap, the only successful airdrop only coin is around number 25. All of the other successful coins that had airdrops were not primarily airdropped, right? Or forked. I guess you've got, BCH and BSV and Bitcoin, and Litecoin's also Bitcoin fork, but they didn't fork the UTXO set. They just forked the software and did a proof of work change. That's like 4 Bitcoin forks up there in the top 10. All of the other tokens, you had to pay to get them. So you could have got Ripple for free, but the majority of them were sold. You could have got XLM for free, but the majority were sold, right? So it's to do free only token is not as powerful as free plus another onboarding method. It's just better. I'll give you another example. If you want to onboard users and people didn't have coins at the snapshot, the only way they can onboard is to buy from an exchange who is a shitty middleman, who wants to AML you, KYC you, lose your orders, charge you fees, get hacked, go down. It sucks. So if we live in a trustless system, why would we expose users to an order book and all that other bullshit when they can just interact directly with the contract? So if you can transform Ethereum into HEX directly through the contract without the middlemen, that's better. It's better, right? And it's fair. Just the way it works is about 1 billion. So there's exactly 1 billion tokens that get released day one to the transform system. The reason that it gets preceded with that billion is because all the rest of the coins are unclaimed, and you don't have your first round of unclaimed until 24 hours has passed from the launch, because then you're like, oh, well, these weren't claimed, right? So first day it gets preceded with 1 billion. Days after that, it's probably going to get around 500 million, 400 million, depending on how many people claim. If more people claim, less are available for the adoption amplifier. The adoption amplifier primarily gets fed with a copy of unclaimed coins that are getting paid to people at the end of the 350 days. So you get your coins for free. They're 90% auto-staked. 10% you can do whatever you want with. You can stake it for longer. You can dump them on market, whatever you want. The majority of the ROI, the vast majority of the ROI, is coming from being staked at day 350. A copy of the coins that are being paid at day 350 are being issued every day during that phase. If more people claim their coins, less people get paid them at the big lump sum payout at day 350, and less are available for transformation through the adoption amplifier because it just gets a copy of them. So it's another virtuous cycle where, oh, if I can get more people to claim, then the value of the coins goes up because there's less available for sale, and they get paid the stakers less later, right? It's better. If
but after
anyway,
day 350, is
then
that
there's
supply-
no more affiliate program. There's no more 20% get in early bonus. There's no more claiming. There's no more free coins to claim. No whale can come along and claim. By the way, whales get penalized 50 to 75% from 1K to 10K coins. So if you're an exchange with a big wallet of Bitcoin and you claim, you get penalized 75%. So you can't dump on everybody. Yeah,
but
you
at day 350, the supply is set. Is it fair
right.
to say
The supply is set to increase at 3.69%
yes.
per year, only paid to stakers. Not paid to electric companies, not paid to mining companies, paid to stakers. And a staker can't sell until he ends a stake. And when does a stake end? Very likely in the future, right? So that it took Bitcoin over 10 years to get down to 3.69% inflation. We're starting there after our launch phase. So we're doing at year one what it took Bitcoin 10 years to do, and we don't have the externalities to pay. We don't have to pay mining rewards, block rewards constantly for people to sell on the market to pay their electric bills and buy more mining hardware from bad actors, right?
How did you choose that number 3.69 for inflation?
It was the closest one to the inflation rate that Bitcoin had when it hit 20K. So I knew it was a good usable inflation rate, and it was lower. I think Bitcoin was 4.17 at the time, maybe Well, Bitcoin is about 4.17 when it hit 20K. And I love the power of threes. And, you know, you can see it at the beginning of the book. So 369 even rhymes, kind of. I don't know. It feels good to me. So the shirts are 36.9. Inflation's rate 3.69. There's not any more specific magical reason for that.
I like it. Yeah, you speak about the magic of three in your book. Yeah.
Yeah, it works, and it's a lower inflation rate that Bitcoin had when it hit 20K. So, you know, inflation rates in other cryptocurrencies really hurt the price because they get sold to pay for electricity because they pay mining rewards to miners. We do not pay block rewards to miners. Therefore, we have lower inflation rates, and our inflation only gets paid to people who aren't going to sell it anyway because they can't, because it's locked. So it's all delayed, and you know, and who knows? You can stake up to 50 years. Some guy's going to, you know, have a big stake at the end of 50 years. Good for him. He'll make a lot of money, right? But he's not going to be dumping on people in the meantime. What else?
It comes down to the last question, which I know is pressure on you, my friend, but when is this bad boy launching?
I mean, I could write a check and go to audit now because we've passed all our internal tests. There's static analysis tools that look for bugs in Solidity code, which is the language our system is written in. We passed MythX, we passed Slither, we passed Securify with flying colors. Some other ones, Oinoti or something, I can't even spell it right. The only bugs that could be found in our system are going to be found through a much more rigorous testing. So they need dedicated auditors looking at them manually. And if you can program invariants well enough, you might be able to find something with Manticore, Echidna. There's two other kind of brute force-ish kind of setups out there to test contract security. Those are the only tools that are left to so there's basically 4 tools and manual analysis are the only things left that could find problems with the contract. On the front end, all the functions work except claim. Claim could be done today. It's there. So I
we
think
can claim now.
No. I mean the testing, that if you host the contract on your own local blockchain and host the front end code on the same machine, then you can claim your own tokens from your own local blockchain testing setup, right? So if you just host the contract on your own blockchain, you have to know how to speak to it in order to get it to do things. And so that's what the front end does. It lets you know how to speak to the contract so that the contract can do what you want it to do, right? You want to claim some coins? Okay, well, the contract evaluates these statements to true if you give it these inputs. And then you need to know what inputs to give it, right? And so the front end, the main reason the front end exists is to format the crap that you tell it in a way that the contract understands. So you know that you've got a balance and a Bitcoin address at a snapshot height that should be good to claim. Good for you. Now you've got to paste that into the front end, and then the front end turns that into language the contract understands. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
when you make code, there's the deploying, which actually happens on the main net, and then there's the test net, which anyone in the world can see, and then there's your private test net, which just runs on your own computer. So for speed, you develop against your own private test net. So you have your own Ethereum blockchain that lives on your own computer that you deploy your contract on, and you have fake Ethereum gas that you use to pay transaction fees on, and you have fake Ethereum users that you invent to do things, and that's your test environment. Once your contract does everything that you want it to do in your test environment, then you deploy it to the normal test nets, and there's a few of them. Rinkeby, Robston, a new one I can't remember, starts with a G, I think. So you've got your public test nets, you've got your private test net, and then people can experiment on there, claim coins, right? Send things around, look for bugs. After you've passed all of that and your audit, then you deploy on the main net. You tell everyone about it, right? You cannot deploy on the main net until you've done your own test net and your own auditing, because your shit might have bugs and then people lose money, right? So right now, our stuff works great on the private testnet. Soon it'll work great on the public testnet, and then soon it'll work great on the mainnet. We're out of things to do in the contract. It's done, basically. And the front end is
before
90.
You launch, we'll get a 2-week warning.
Of course, for sure, because you need to be able to get your funds where you have the private keys where you can sign statements to them. And I would like to see everyone have some way to be able to get Ethereum if they want to participate in the adoption amplifier, because you could end up with a lot more tokens that way than you can from claiming, and I'll show you the math on it. The math on it is, if you have 1 Bitcoin, let's call it $10,000, even though right now it's only 9,300, 9,350. Well, 93, 92. If you had 1 Bitcoin and you self-referred yourself, you're going to get 20% for claiming on the first day. You're going to get 10% for having used a referral link. You're going to get another 20% for having been the referrer. So if you take the 10,000 Bitcoin the 10,000 HEX that you get for each Bitcoin, multiply by 1.2 for your speed bonus, times 1.1 for being referred, times 1.2 for being a referrer, you end up with 15,840 HEX per Bitcoin. Not bad. Free, right? Now, how many HEX are going into the adoption amplifier day 1? 1 billion. That's a lot of coins. Who's going to get those coins? Well, let's say only one person joins the adoption amplifier that day, and they put in 1 Ethereum. They'll get 1 billion HEX for the equivalent of $200. Now, how is that deal not work out for you if a lot of other people put in stuff too, right? So you could do the math, and I think the math would look like this. So if you had a $10,000 Bitcoin, then you'll get 15,840 HEX if you claim the first day and you self-refer yourself. If you wanted to get the same 15,840 HEX from the adoption amplifier, what's 1 billion divided by 15,840? I'll do the math real quick here.
While you do
it's
that,
63,000. It's 63,000. So it's very likely that people will get more HEX by using the adoption amplifier and sending Ethereum to it than they'll get from their claims.
Well, let me put a scenario to you on that then. Let's say I look at that proposition on week 1, day 1, or whatever, and I say, right, if he's only taking a snapshot of my Bitcoin, if I buy, just war game this with me, so if I get 2 Bitcoins as an example, we'll keep it simple, 10 grand each at 20 grand, you get the snapshot, and I get, to keep it real simple, 20,000 HEX, plus my bonus, plus all the interest on top of that. No matter what happens to HEX, I still have my 2 Bitcoin.
Yeah, you keep your Bitcoin. They never move. You never send them. You never send your private key anywhere. You never install weird software.
But if we go down the other scenario of, well, if
you send Ethereum, you lose your Ethereum.
That's right. Yeah. And of course I get some HEX.
Yeah.
And if HEX goes up, well, great. I've made a good investment.
Yeah.
But worst case scenario, if HEX completely flops.
Yeah.
And I've put Ethereum into the project, and I've just lost all my money on whatever Ethereum.
Yep.
So I'm just thinking, as an investor, wouldn't I be better off? Yes, I'd get lots of through that pool you were talking about. I get lots if I put Ethereum into it, but I'm actually paying then, and I could lose it. Whereas if I did the same scenario with Bitcoin, no matter what happens to Richard Hart's project, I've still got my Bitcoin.
Correct. That's all true. Yep. The reason I point this out is the likelihood that I'm able to get 100% of people to claim is 0%. The likelihood that the payouts from the We Are All Satoshi unclaimed coin things is gigantic, is very large. Particularly considering that even if I did get 100% of Bitcoin holders to claim, they can't, because the whale penalty knocks so many of them down, and because there's so many coins that have been lost, and because there's so many coins that just technically can't claim, like all the multi-sig coins, which most large exchanges use. None of those guys can claim, which means there's going to be a ton of unclaimed coins, which means there's going to be a ton paid at the end of the 50 weeks, which also means that there's going to be a ton available in the adoption amplifier because it's a copy of those. So if day one, there's 1 billion HEX that's available through the adoption amplifier, and you would get all of them if you put in one grain of sand of, if you're the only person that puts a grain of sand of Ethereum into the contract, you get all of it. It just gets divided up between who joined, right? So if you were the only person that joined the adoption amplifier lobby on the first day, you would get 1 billion HEX for nothing, for literally less than the transaction fee. Like you could put one, so if you took one Ethereum and divide it by 18 zeros, and that's one gwei, it's called, you could get all of the 1 billion HEX for just one gwei, which is less than 1 penny. Your transaction fee to send that transaction would probably be 2 pennies. Let's call it 1 penny to have the ability to get 1 billion HEX if no one else joined. That's a retarded no-brainer deal. That really, like, if you don't join the transform lobby, you're costing yourself the lottery that other people didn't join after you, and then you got like infinitely wealthy for nothing, pretty much. In a realistic system, a lot of people would join, and then all of those participants would have more reasonable gains. But if you're the only guy that joins, it doesn't matter how much you join for. You get everything for nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Dude.
And that happens every day. So like every single day, there's in between 500 million and 1 billion HEX that are going into that amplifier. And if you don't join with at least just 1/100th of a penny for the chance that not that many other people join on top of you to make it a more realistic price, well, I mean, that just seems retarded to me. Like, because for a penny, you're entering the lottery that you get an insane amount of HEX. And it's really just a question of how many people are putting in ETH into the lobby that day, right?
Look, I mentioned there's 2 main reasons why I supported the project, and the second reason, Richard, is because you're putting your reputation on the line, and I really respect that. The reality is you are going in front of planet Earth and regularly going in front of the camera, doing live streams, as we're doing tonight, of which I've never done, so thank you for this experience.
Thank you for being a great interviewer and having fabulous questions. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm humbled by that comment. Thank you. As I said, I've been looking forward to this conversation for years, and what really, I spent a lot of time doing the review on your project. I spent at least a month listening to it every day, and then I spent days making the actual video, and I even put lots of little visual effects on it, and my computer at the time was a shitty computer, and it kept crashing, and I kept having to reboot it, and it was horrible. But ultimately why I thought, well, this is worth it, is because this guy is putting his face in front of the world. Unlike any other, and it's not an ICO, it's not an IEO, and that's what I put in my review. You're not asking for money. Now, yes, I acknowledge that at the moment there is an opportunity to put Ethereum in here, and if you want, put money in there.
But you don't have to. I mean, look, if no one puts money in,
you don't have to.
Whatever.
Yep, you don't have to. And that was my final summary on my review of it. It's like this guy's not asking for money, and if it all goes to shit, it's his time, his money, his reputation. So why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you just say, "There you go, Richard. This is my Bitcoin." He's not asking for it, and that's why I could not understand the pushback from the community. I think you may get some pushback now with saying, "Oh, he wants some Ethereum," but you've explained it well. No,
you don't have. Look, if no one puts anything in there, then it doesn't cost anyone anything. It only costs something. It only costs someone something if other people are putting stuff in, right?
Yep.
If everyone just puts in 1 penny, well then it costs like 10 cents to get 1 billion HEX. Like, congrats, guys, right? So it's unlikely. I think that the project has a lot of value. When Vitalik launched Ethereum, the market for Ethereum was world computer, and we've seen that there is actually no market for that. Nobody is using it for anything similar to that whatsoever. But that project's still worth a quarter of Bitcoin, 20% of Bitcoin, some very large number, right? So Bitcoin's worth, let's call it 9,400 times 18 million coins. Oh, that's not my calculator. Hold on a second.
You're using your weighted keyboard there, aren't you?
Yeah. So Bitcoin's worth about 170 billion. And I think Ethereum is worth, and I'll just use CoinMarketCap for this because I don't remember their supply. I know it's about $200 a coin. You should use on-chain effects, by the way. It's a little bit better than CoinMarketCap. Yeah, so Ethereum's market cap's 22 billion. That was a project started by someone who at the time was less popular than I am, and who addressed a smaller market cap than we're addressing. We're addressing time deposits, which is a multi-trillion-dollar a year industry. And we're doing currency. Ethereum does currency and world computing doesn't have any value in it, right? The amount of value that we'll be sending to the Ethereum ecosystem from using it for our project should be quite low because you don't need high throughput in order to do time deposits. Time deposits is based on not having throughput due to being locked up. So it's the opposite of high throughput. We don't need the high throughput, therefore we don't need to pay a lot of fees. Therefore we shouldn't be driving up the fee market on there, right? It's a larger market cap with an idea that no one else is doing that is already a multi-trillion-dollar a year industry in the United States. It's probably the most popular, it's the second most popular banking product, is my guess. And if you go to your bank, you're like, all right, we got savings accounts, we got checking accounts, and we got CDs. And there's trillions of dollars in CDs. So, there's like, we have an affiliate program. Did Ethereum have an affiliate program? No. We have free tokens for people. Did Ethereum have free tokens for people? No. We got the founder with 52K Twitter followers and 40K YouTube subs, and that's without spending any money on marketing ever at all. Nothing. And what the affiliates will start pushing it when the demo's out, right? Like there's so many good things in this that didn't exist for any other project. And it's unique and it appeals to a larger market. It's just a ton of very, very good things in this project.
Well, I'm keen to become, as you put, I like this term, a shillionaire.
I like that term, shillionaire.
I love it. Yeah, you've got to make that into a shirt. Yeah, one of your shirts has
I'm going to write that down. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I'm write that
it's
down.
Great. Yeah, shillionaire it's the coolest term. I dig it. Richard, I'm cognizant of the time. I did actually want to talk to you about Tether, but maybe we could do more on this later because Tether is a deep warren hole that I wanted to go down with you perhaps in another talk if you're up for it.
Yeah, whatever. People hate when they talk about it. Somehow people have confounded the success of Bitcoin with the success of something the opposite of Bitcoin, which is fake fiat, centralized counterparty. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how people got this idea that the opposite of Bitcoin is somehow now what you have to protect and defend to protect actual Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trustless without a central counterparty that can run off your money. All of these fake fiat currencies that run on crypto, they're all center counterpartied. Someone can run off with your money. They're opposites. Stop confusing them. If everyone had to sell their fake fiat currency for real currency, real Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin would go higher, just like it did when Mt. Gox failed. What happened when Mt. Gox failed? There was a system that had few Bitcoin because they got stolen, but lots of dollars. And so what happened? People discovered that they weren't going to get their dollars back. So what did they do? They traded their fake dollars that they had in the system for real Bitcoin that they could take off the system. So what happens when one of these fake currencies or fake exchanges gets found out is that everyone, as quickly as they can, turns their fake balances in whatever fake thing they have, Gox IOUs, or I don't want to say the word Tether, but if Tether had a problem, they would turn all their Tether that they can't turn into real dollars into the only thing they can actually turn them into that's useful, Bitcoin or other things, right? And if they have to turn all of their fake things into real things, it drives the price of the real things up. So if all of these fake cryptocurrencies died and people had to buy real cryptocurrencies, the price of the real cryptocurrencies would go up for the exact same reason Bitcoin went to $1,200 when Mt. Gox failed, because everyone took their fake Mt. Gox balances that they weren't going to get that money, and they turned them into something they could actually get, which was Bitcoin. Same exact mechanism. So everyone that defends Tether thinking they're doing something good for the Bitcoin price is actually fucking retarded. You guys are stupid. If those things went away, then they would be exchanged for real Bitcoin, and the value of a real Bitcoin would go up. The meaning of crypto is not to buy fake bullshit. Okay, they've got a bank account, and then you stuck them. Now it's their bank account, and then it's them, and then it's some crypto that isn't really necessary whatsoever, and then it's you. Well, that's a lot of bullshit in between you and their bank account. Why don't you just make it your bank account? And then there's less bullshit in the middle, and then there's less people that can rob you.
I don't understand why people don't get this, Richard. I don't understand why people use Tether. Now, they say it's good for, like day trading or trading in and out because you don't have to live. It is fiat currency. All Tether is.
It's worse than fiat.
Is another fiat. It's basically
worse than fiat.
A reserve bank printing fake money. And they're not even really printing it. It's just putting numbers into a computer saying, I have $1 billion worth of a thing called Tether that I can now use to buy real crypto like Bitcoin. I've made 5 videos on this now, and it's funny because
you'll just lose subscribers everyone you do. Everyone you do, these dumb assholes that can't understand that the death of fake Bitcoin is good for real Bitcoin. They just can't seem to get it. They don't get it.
I don't get how they don't get it.
If you don't like fractional reserve, and they already said that they did fractional reserve for a quarter of it.
Yep.
Well, then why don't you just let them do it for 90% then, you stupid faggots? Like, why don't you just fucking let them fucking 100% fiat it then? Why pretend? Like,
yep.
It's so stupid. It hurts me.
On day one, they said 1 for 1, and we were always suspicious. Then on day whatever, they're like, no, we're not actually doing 1 for 1. And then on the next day, they recently accidentally printed $5 billion worth of Tether. Can you imagine accidentally printing? Bullshit. Accidentally.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, dude, and it really manipulated the price. I actually came home. My dog. You've got a dog. I saw you. You got.
I did. My dog died, unfortunately.
Oh, dude, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It happens.
How old?
She was like 11, but it was Chihuahua, so she should have lived longer, but she didn't, unfortunately. Every time I see little dogs now, I want to get another one, but I need to kind of finish my project before I get to have fun again.
This is my first dog. He's a rescue dog, and when I came back from the Middle East, I saw this dog trapped in a backyard, and he had food, water, shelter, but no love. And dude, I didn't understand how much people love dogs until I had one. And I remember on one of your videos, your puppy was running on the hard floor, and you could hear the nails scratched on the floor.
Yeah,
I'm really sorry for your loss, man.
It's okay, man. I mean, the thing that I try and tell people that we need more medical research. My grandparents died. I didn't do shit for them. My dog died. I did barely shit for her. I'm next on the chopping block, and my kids, if I have them after, at what point do you figure out what really matters in life? And it's not exactly more trinkets, and it's not exactly more toys. It's the fucking medicine. You need it. You may not realize you need it, but you will need it, and your loved ones have needed it, and they didn't have it, and that's why they're dead now. So, like, progress can be made. In order to make it, we need more money in it. So, SENS.org, they accept crypto, donate there. Biotech startups, do them. We need more people working on the healing of humans, and less people working on everything else, pretty much.
Do you think Musk... like
he doesn't believe. He wants to go see Mars because that's what he read about when he was a kid. Vitalik gave a few $1 million to the same foundation that I volunteered for, the Sens Foundation. He gave far more than I ever did, infinitely more. I gave some time and some goodwill, but I never gave the amount of cash that he did. So Vitalik believes, I believe, a lot of other good crypto people believe that, 200,000 people a day die stuff they don't need to die from because we're bad at doing medicine. We should get better at it.
And here we are sending people to them. When I spoke to the futurist, who may have been the Bitcoin time traveler, I don't think so, but it's a good little crypto fantasy. He actually raised the same point. Here we are speaking about sending people to Mars when we should look at filtering our own water so kids aren't dying from drinking contaminated water. And that's the very basics of it. And then we go further on to other first world medical research.
Yep, it's true.
Richard, I'm very grateful to speak to you tonight.
Pleasure, man.
I think it's morning or midday wherever you are. I like that we work in Zulu time as well.
I don't need fanboys begging me. Hey, Richard, please toss me a Bitcoin. Fuck off, scum.
Who's doing that?
Well, no one, because no one knows where I live. I never have to do that GIF where it's like, please, sir, may I have another GIF? I never have to see that shit.
It's the consequence of getting richer, I guess. The further you go up, the maybe more people are asking for a handout.
Well, I don't know. It's like, it's not like people are sending you gifts. They're sending you retarded sales pitches and mostly retarded shit. Some people would send gifts, but it's like, how many times from knowing where you live have your friends sent you some awesome birthday gift thing? Like, nah, not that often. But then how many times have I received emails that say, like, please invest in my thing, or what do you think about this thing, and all that other stuff? And it's just like, I can't care about most of these crappy things.
I had one the other day. Someone wrote to me and goes, I've made this new mining company. I'm selling miners. Can you review it? And I said, all right, well, send me some miners and I'll go through the process of how good they are. And they're like, oh, we'll get back to you. And I'm like, come on. You want me to make a video on your product and you're not even going to give me your product? Fuck off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, no, review your own vaporware. Funny stuff.
Before we close off, I've always wanted to know, that candlestick thing next to you, are they real candles in it? Have you ever lit it? What the hell does it mean, man?
They're candles. And yes, I have lit them. So a drunk girl...
It must wax everywhere if it's on an angle.
Correct. They used to not be at an angle. A drunk girl knocked this off of a pedestal, and it bent this piece of metal that holds these forward. And then I've inserted my own piece of metal behind it to reduce the suck, but I don't feel like welding it because I don't have the tools I need to do it. And then it's this thing I would have to fix, right? And I don't feel like fighting it and fixing it, so I just leave the candles as they are at an angle without lighting them. I've done moonlight streams, so like my camera, I have an A7S that does 1,000,000 ISO, and I shoot at 50mm f1.4. So I can be extremely overexposed in just a single candlelight, and I've done candlelit stuff before. It just, it's easier to have normal lights. It's harder to have these because they're only on this side, and then this side's too dark, and then I have to lighten up that side, so then I have to have like another single candle over here. It's just a little clunky. It's real brass.
I thought it was meant to be on an angle, but it's a drunk chick falling on it.
Well, actually, they kind of are naturally at a little bit of a forward angle because this angel is like flying forward with them. But now they kind of go the wrong way a little bit, and I just haven't had, like, the back of her wings are covered in wax, like you said, right now, from, the candles being tilted the wrong way. Candlelight looks cool. Like, we're kind of evolved to appreciate candlelight a lot. Or not just candlelight, but, fire light.
Yeah, it's, I've got those lava lamps, and not lava lamps, it's like a red piece of salt. I don't know what it is. It's kind of hippie-ish, but it creates this beautiful red light, and in the evening it's quite calming. It just puts a red glow that I think we've been evolved to, sitting around the campfire or sunsets. Red filters. Even these lights I've got, as I talk to you now, that it's got a brown filter or a red filter on it. If I change it goes to white, and that's a horrible color.
Interesting.
And if I go to that one,
I like that one better. Yeah,
it makes me look like I've got a tan.
Yeah, I agree, man. The tans are nice. was really nice
Crossbow.
speaking to you.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
too, bro.
I'll tell you, I'll tell your viewers everywhere they should go. Download the sciVive books, t.me/sciVive. Go to the HEX Crypto channel, t.me/HEX Crypto. We also have t.me/Strape and Strape charts and Richard's calls. Those are free price calls, which I'm thinking of not making for anymore. I don't know. I'll just focus on HEX for now, probably. But at some point, throwing good information to the world is like, all right, well, I'll just charge there. Now, if you like my stuff, pay for it. If not, you don't need to know it. Might do that. What else? Free book, free trading chat, free normal chat, crypto chat. If you want HEX shirts or stuff, you can look at the demos of the store. That's in t.me/HEX Crypto. Follow me on Twitter, Richard Hart Win. Follow me on YouTube, Richard Hart. HEX Crypto Twitter is HEX Crypto. And I'm leaving something out. Donate to sens.org, SENS. Yeah, I guess that's it. Or if you want to trade, go to richardhart.win. You could do options, you get 10% off. You could do futures. You could do, perpetual swap. There should, I have everyone looking at this 8,500 target to buy the dip. We just dumped like 6% today in a candle. So price is 93. Let's take a look. 94.40 right now, with a bottom so far of like 93.20 or so. That's what it looks like. Yeah, that's about it. Anything you want people to look at you at, Adam?
Yeah, for me, I'm just Adam Stokes. If you check me out at Adam Stokes Crypto, and also follow me at Twitter, which is Adam_Stokesy, Stokesy. I don't have as much presence as you, Richard, so I'm quite simple. Just Adam Stokes on YouTube and Adam_Stokesy on Twitter.
Sounds good, man. It was really good talking to you. I appreciate those good questions.
Thanks,
When
man.
HEX comes out, we should do it again, and then the questions will be even cooler.
Yes,
Maybe.
I really appreciate the work you do, man. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, man.
And maybe the investments you make will one day save my life. Who knows?
I hope so. That's crypto, longevity. That's what I'm into. There ain't really much better, Getting rich
Good
is
man.
okay, but like, what good is being rich if you're dead? Ask Steve Jobs. My answer is
Yeah.
better than his. I can speak it to you.
Yeah, some of your words rock my world, especially that Jobs case.
All right, man. Talk to you later, bro.
Thanks, brother. I'll see you
Bye.
later.